And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thompson. 100% agree. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, good day to everyone. It is another day that we get to put on the Weighing In podcast. We have a lot to talk about. A little bit with ONE FC, but we do have the big championship fight in the lightweight division coming up with the UFC. Michael Chandler versus Charles Duke Bronx Oliveira. That's going to be one hell of a fight. We've lost a couple of other ones in there. We'll talk about that. There's some other things in the news that I think we should kind of get a little bit of our opinion, since God knows our opinion means nothing. But Josh Thompson, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing wonderful, man. We just had a great conversation with the California State Athletic Commission, which we will talk about in the news as well. But first, I want to make sure all of you guys that are just tuning in, or you guys are just listening to us for the first time, hit that subscribe button. Also, go to our audio platforms and hit the subscribe button there as well. Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, all of them, Spotify. We are on all of them for our audio platforms. Hit that subscribe button. We want to thank you guys. If you're on YouTube, hit the little bell off to the bottom right. Get our notifications. This last Sunday was Mother's Day, so we posted a little bit late because John and everyone else that we all know have mothers. And so we wanted to wish them all a happy Mother's Day, and we got a little late start that day. So hit that little notification. That'll let you guys know when we drop. And we drop our midweek show, and most of you guys are probably at work or getting started. So you guys want to know when we drop that. We drop that at different times because it's based off of the what are they called, Dave?
Algorithms.
The algorithms, as well as just knowing what we can see when the best times are to drop during that week and from the past week from before. So hey, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications, and thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoy this show. Let's get into the news, man. Let's jump right into it.
No, first, do me a favor.
Okay.
I got to hear this. Let's see if you can do it, because I can't. I'm just being honest. Josh, explain to me an algorithm.
I have no damn clue.
No. Thank you very much. I don't have a clue.
It's something to do with, like,
I wouldn't be able to explain it. I know what it is, and I can't explain it.
No, it's
like, how do you explain something that's really not real, but it is? And it's like, oh, well.
It's something that shows data that people watch and listen and tune in at certain times, and that's when we follow that. So
okay, got it.
Last week's show, we dropped it at 10 o'clock. I think, Dave, you dropped it 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Midweek show. We dropped it at 10, and and the viewership was good. So we're gonna probably drop it around the same time next week or this week coming up. And today is that week. So tomorrow, today is. I keep thinking we're on Saturday.
All I know is that basically it's math, and that's why we're not good with them.
We're not good. I love it. Yeah. So, John, you want to read that? Go ahead and read that definition for us there, Dave.
What is there a definition?
Can you speak English though, please?
Oh man, let's hear it.
Is a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. That's the exact definition I would have given.
So that just confused me even more.
The exact definition I would have given. I think mine with math is better. Yeah. Calculations and math, same thing.
Well, as you guys all know that normally listen to us, our true love and support the And Still podcast. Okay, that is us. We are still the GOATs and the champs. So if you guys continue to listen to us, you know that we'd like to jump right into it. So let's jump right into this. We have ONE Championship is this weekend. So we're going to talk about that first, and we'll get into the other cards after that. But we're mainly going to talk about the main event here is Brandon Vera versus Arjun Singh Bowler. And Arjun trains at AKA, so I may show a little bit of bias, but not too much because I'm actually really good friends with Brandon Vera.
Okay, you go ahead and show bias towards Arjun, and I'll show bias towards Brandon. Brandon kicked me in the head one time, so we're buddies.
Oh, really? Oh, man. But Brandon's a great fighter. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's good on the feet. He's got really good jiu-jitsu, which is drastically underestimated. He just doesn't use it. He should use it more. I wish he should. He's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. I mean, this fight is at heavyweight. He's fighting Arjun. Arjun's a good wrestler. He's from Canada. They've got a couple good schools up there. Simon Fraser's a really good freestyle school up there in Canada that produces some of the best wrestlers out of the in the world. I believe Igali was out of there as well as Olympic gold medalist. Came out of Simon Fraser, and back in I think I think he came out of there in 97, 96, 97, somewhere around there. Great wrestler, but Arjun also wrestled there as well, and I mean, he's a good wrestler. I've seen him train. He trains at AKA.
Yes.
Watched him wrestle with DC, Kane, and a lot of the other heavyweights, Todd Duffy and those guys. And sometimes he has success and sometimes he doesn't. But on the feet is where this fight he's gonna lack. So he'll be shooting from the distance, and he's gonna be making sure that Brandon doesn't hit him with those kicks. If Brandon gets to the legs early and often, Arjun's gonna have a hard time. Just my personal opinion.
Well, you talk about levels to things, and there are just levels to Brandon Vera's stand-up and the power that he has in his legs. His kicks are hard. I can attest to it. He has got heavy power in his legs, and if he starts attacking the lead leg of Arjun, it's going to slow him down a little bit. Brandon is not easy to get into. There's guys that have taken him down, but he's not easy to get into because he is dangerous on the feet, and he is so much smarter now as far as the way he fights completely. You know, he is just in his element where he's at. You talk about that perfect transition, and I know everyone wants to see someone in the UFC, and Brendan was, but he is a rock star throughout Asia. You go into the Philippines, you go into Singapore, Brandon Vera is a freaking rock star. There's Manny Pacquiao and there's Brandon Vera. And right next to Brandon Vera is Mark Munoz. But I mean, seriously, if you go there and you see him there, man, he is in such a good position fighting for one where he's at. He's comfortable there. He's happy. And when you're a happy guy and, you know, enjoying what you're doing, life's good. And life's good for Brandon right now. And I think this is a good fight for him.
Yeah, I think the best thing for him and his career was for him signing with ONE. They've really catapulted him in that area. They do have fights in Manila all the time. I've actually worked a couple of the fights when I was working for ONE. I worked a couple of the fights and called the fights there in Manila. He is an absolute rock star. Can't walk anywhere without a crowd. He lives in a very gated community, like making sure that he is safe and taken care of. I mean, it's a lifestyle. Like, I've been to the Philippines a couple times, and it's a lifestyle that one could get used to. Just let you know. Just gonna let you know.
Get used to.
Yeah, it's beautiful there. It is humid and hot, but it is beautiful. The people are extremely nice, very fun. The only thing outside of the being humid and hot is traffic is just disgusting there. Traffic here is bad. It is disgusting there.
It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. They can get anywhere. You know, if anyone's never been in a jeepney and seen the people that they can pack into one old Jeep that has been extended out.
What's great,
or how many people they can get on one motorcycle. Yeah,
you know what's great is when I was over there, I had seen kids while, like you were saying, what are they called, jeepneys or whatever? But
jeepneys, yeah,
I see kids running after them in the street, and then the other kids grabbing them and pulling them up.
Oh yeah,
to go to school. And I'm this is crazy. How does this get approved? Like, this is amazing. But I mean, realistically, it's just teaching kids how to be adults. I mean, you know, catch the bus, do your thing. But it's it's definitely a different type of living, but it's fun. I mean, being there, I saw a lot of beautiful places, and I enjoyed it. The people were extremely nice, you know, and I've been there several times.
Oh, some of the nicest people on the face of the earth.
Yeah. But this fight, though, to me, it's going to be a style. It's going to be whoever can dictate where the fight goes. If Arjun can get him down, he can avoid the submissions. He's pretty good at avoiding the submissions. It's just a matter of whether he can avoid Brandon's submissions. And I think he's got a good chance, especially as the fight goes on. And Brandon's always been known to slow down a little bit as the fight has gone on. He throws a lot of power, and in doing that, he starts to slow down. Both of them are great fighters. It's just, I think that Brandon has more tools in the shed to pull out. And I think Arjun's got a chance, but he's
a lot older.
Yeah, he's got to fight a smart fight. And Brandon, I believe, coming off of his loss, right, is the last time he fought to Aung San Le. I think it's the last one he fought. Yeah, that was the last time he fought. So that was in 2019. That's been a long time. And Brandon is older. Yep. So, I mean, we'll see. I think he's going to come motivated, though. He's still the champ at heavyweight, and so he
wants to keep that.
He wants to keep that and wants to make sure that he stays on top and, you know, keeps living the lifestyle that he's living. So, good stuff on him. But that fight right there, Dave, tell us the times. I believe it's 3:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 6:30 a.m.
It's on the hour. It's 3 a.m. Pacific and 6 a.m. Eastern on Saturday.
It's okay. 6 a.m. is okay. I can do that.
6 okay.
For you.
Yeah, for him. 3 a.m. is not okay for Josh Thompson. I mean, I get up around 5:45 or 4:45 and 5:15, 5:30 normally, but that ain't gonna happen. I'm gonna have to watch it on YouTube or something. Figure it. Tape delay.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you at all.
It's not on TNT, correct? No, it's on Bleacher Report. So if you guys want to tune in and watch it, it's on Bleacher Report. So take a look at it there. All right. Well, let's see what else. There we go.
There it is. The UFC at 260. Was it 262? Right?
Yeah, 262.
Right on.
There we go.
There's a lot of good fights in here.
Yeah.
But when you look at the main card, man, there's a couple. Edson Barbosa against Shane Burgos. That's a good fight. That's going to be an interesting fight. That one should be something where someone is not going to make it out of that fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at the Venata fight versus Grundy. That'll be a good fight as well.
A good one too.
Yeah.
And Andrea KGB Lee against Antonina Shevchenko. That'll be a good fight too. I like Andrea Lee. She's tough.
I'm not familiar.
To watch.
Talk to me, Goose. Tell me.
Oh, come on, KGB Lee. You know what? She had she fought in Invicta for quite a while. You know, under the whole KGB thing, and she's always wears a cowboy hat in, so it's kind of like Donald Cerrone a little bit there with the cowboy hat thing going. But she's just a good all-around fighter. She's fun to watch. She's aggressive. She never stops in the fight. I think this is a very good matchup for both of them. I think they're very similar in styles, but I do think that right now, I don't know. On the ground, I think that they're actually very close. It's going to be the stand-up. Who's sharper in the stand-up? Maybe Shevchenko is a little bit sharper in the stand-up, but Lee is tough. She holds her own, so it's a good fight. You know, it's a really good matchup.
She's pretty good looking. I know I've seen her fight before. I feel like I've seen her fight before. So, can you pull up who she's fought? I'm trying to remember.
Quite a few.
I know I've seen her fight. Oh, Roxanne Modafferi, Lauren Murphy. I think I saw her Lauren Murphy fight.
Yeah, but see, all those are decision losses and stuff. And
two of them are splits.
Yeah, she got a decision against Ashley Evans.
Dun, dun, dun.
She had the problem. I know she had a problem. Hey, never mind. I'm not even going to say it.
Okay.
Marital problem. She was married to a dumbass. How's that?
There you go. Love that. Well, hopefully she's not married to him anymore.
I hope not.
Okay, Lana Venata, Mike Grundy, Jacare is also fighting, but I like the Lana Venata. Like, to me, Lando Venata.
I love Lando Venata.
He's so fun to watch.
Yes, he is, man. He brings it. He's so relaxed in the fight, but and he'll pull off all kinds of just neat techniques and stuff. So he's enjoyable to watch. I really enjoy watching him fight every time.
He reminds me of like another version of an Anthony Pettis when Anthony Pettis was younger. A little bit, right?
Yeah.
He does a lot of crazy stuff that works, though. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, but to this day, one of the best fights that I had seen that he took on short notice was his fight with Tony Ferguson.
Oh, it was great. I did it. Awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
He hurt Tony.
Yeah,
he had him on the ropes.
And it was a great fight. I was like, damn, this is insane.
He just ran out of gas because he took that thing last second.
Yeah, I think it was like, 5 days? It was maybe a 7-day notice fight, I think. Yeah. Somewhere around there, yeah. Which basically is no training camp.
Well, he had gone into that fight undefeated.
Ah, I didn't know that.
He had never had a loss up to that point, and I don't know who he was fighting for before that, but that was his very first fight in the UFC, fighting Tony Ferguson.
Wow. I mean,
and it was a main event.
Yeah. Yep. Because Tony was supposed to fight someone else, and they got hurt.
Yeah, I can't remember who the hell he was supposed to fight, but
can't remember either. But it was a great fight. Great fight. Okay. So go back to the card. Edson Barboza and Shane Burgos. Talk to me. How does Shane Burgos get it done?
Shane Burgos, in my opinion, he wants to just do what he normally does. He's very good in the stand-up. Just take it out of the kickboxing range. Step inside of that kicking range. Make it so Edson Barboza is now fighting you without the use of the kicks that he normally likes to use in a fight. Step inside of that range and just start getting after it, man. Do the things that you do. You're good with your hands. He's also good with his kicks, but I look at it, I think Edson Barboza is probably better with the kicks, and you take away that element of him, his boxing is not as good as his kickboxing. And so I'd put Edson in that realm of, I don't see Shane actually taking him to the ground and trying to use, ground and pound or submission. He could, but he likes to stand and bang. So my whole thing, if, he's going to fight him, is just don't be in the kickboxing range. Push it more towards the boxing range. Make it to where the kicks are kind of taken out of the equation. And I think he can do very well.
Yeah, Edson's boxing is based around his kicking. Yes. So everything he does is off the kick. And his boxing is, if you put him in that boxing range, he's not as tight with his stuff. He also, his arms tend to blow up. I mean, they did at 55. I haven't seen him box too much at 45. He's been out for a little bit because he was having some contract stuff, I believe. He just re-signed recently. And you know how the UFC does their contract stuff. They know you're on your last fight and you haven't re-signed. They drag that shit out until they think you maybe need money and you're forced to re-sign. Well, so he just got done re-signing and he seems like he was happy. I thought there was a chance we may get him at Bellator. I was pretty stoked to see if maybe that fell through.
Well, he had the fight against Americani.
Yeah.
Where that was the kind of fight that the UFC likes to do when you're not just signing the contract. Oh, you're a striker. I'm going to put you against someone that I think is a pretty good striker and a good wrestler. Someone that likes to take people down, and let's see how you do in this fight. And he responded. He got that win. So that was a good thing for him. Yeah. But we'll see.
So we'll see. I mean, in terms of with him, as long as I think Burgos, like you said, stays in the boxing range, puts the pressure on him, makes Barboza fight off of his back foot, he could probably have some success. He doesn't need to press him to the fence in dirty boxing, but he needs to make him fight going backwards. When Barboza is standing in the center of the cage or walking you down and throwing his kicks in kicking range as well as setting up his hands, he's nasty. It's when you got to kind of be cautious too of his knees, because he's got good knees when he decides to throw them. He doesn't throw them as much. But remember his Daryush fight where he was able to knock Daryush out with the flying knee.
But his technique is so sharp.
It is. It is.
It's like, here, you want to see good technique? Here, watch this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's phenomenal. He is he's gotten a lot harder to take down. He's gotten a lot harder to hold down.
Right.
Like I was saying, in that boxing range though, he tends to his arms and his everything starts to get heavy. He fills up with blood pretty fast, I feel like. And maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's the way he trains, maybe it almost feels like he just starts to slow down with his power and his speed as the fight goes on if you stay on him and make him fight on his back foot. So it seems like everything gets heavy for him after like a round and a half. So if you can do that to him, he's got a good chance. I think Burgos got a good chance of getting the win.
It's going to be a good fight. Great matchup.
Easier said than done, John. Very much.
Yeah. Isn't it always easier said than done?
Yes. What else? What other fight?
Let's talk about Tony Ferguson. Oh, Michael Chiesa. Boom. Look at that. I just had it. Blow up of the brain.
Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, Lando Venata took over for Michael Chiesa. Chiesa got hurt.
Okay.
Just got it.
I was like, what are you talking about? Hey, John, tune me in next time you want to.
Well, all of a sudden, we said, let's talk about Tony Ferguson, and boom, I was that was Michael Chiesa, because that was, you got to figure that was going to be two of guys that had won tough that were fighting, and that fight fell out.
Got it. Dave and I looked at each other like, what the hell is John?
Hell is he talking about?
What are you talking about?
Well, it was there. I kept trying to think of it, and I couldn't. Okay, got it.
All right, well, let's get right into the two top fights. You've got Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. Just going to be just a barn burner of a fight, man. Barn burner of a fight.
Well, how does Daryush win this fight?
I think that he beats him on the feet, stuffs the takedowns, and I think he avoids all the submissions. Daryush is very good on the ground. You just
he's really good on the ground.
Stand. And I think right now, because of the two fights, his fight's coming up. Daryush is coming up, and Tony's kind of going down a little bit. I do want to say this. Tony's losses have been with no fans, and Tony feeds off of the crowd.
Yeah.
That might make a difference. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's a strong possibility. John, help me out. I love Tony, man. People think I got something against Tony because we fought. He beat me and cut me all up and stuff. And I'm like, no, I like the guy. I love watching the guy fight, and I want him to have success. You know, but I think they're at different stages right now in their career. Daryush is exactly where Tony was at 32 years old. He was making his rise to the top, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Tony's kind of where I was when I fought Tony, is like on my way down a little bit. And so it's I hope he bounces back. I think it'd be wonderful if he bounced back. I want him to bounce back. I definitely don't want him to take the type of punishment he took the last two fights, though. You know, that's the thing. Like, I mean, he's really good. Tony's really good, but Daryush, I feel like right now is on the rise. He's on his way up. Confidence is key. How's Tony's confidence after the last two fights? He doesn't seem like someone that lacks the confidence, but he didn't seem the same. I didn't feel like I saw the same fighter against Charles Oliveira that I saw being motivated to fight Justin Gaethje, and then Justin just had his number, man. And so since then, it hasn't been the same fighter. Does he bounce back? What do you think?
I don't know. I really don't. It's one of those, because of the fact that he's getting older. And I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but it might be that speed. Tony was never that super fast guy anyways. But, you know, just his ability to get inside, the elbows he would throw, the way he would do things, it flustered guys. It created problems for him. And his pace was something. And and not only his pace, his unorthodox style and everything that he does. He's just, you know, all of a sudden, you know, he'll break into a roll. He'll do all kinds of different stuff. You know, he does weird things because he doesn't mind giving up positions and things like that. But some of those positions have cost him problems in his fights, you know, his fight against Charles Oliveira. I look at it and you know, Daryush has not faced, I want to say he hasn't faced the level of competition that Tony has.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a really good record. He's faced good fighters, and there's certain fights that I look and I go, man, he looked great in that fight. And then I look at who he's fighting and I go, yeah, but I think Tony would look great in that fight too. So the real question for me in this fight is they're both great on the ground. You know, Beneil is just outstanding on the ground. His stand-up has gotten way better with Rafael Cordero and King's MMA and what they've been doing with him. But he throws from odd angles. He sometimes leaves himself very open.
Sometimes.
And I'm being good here, man. For once, I'm being good. He leaves himself open, and Tony is very good at stepping inside of that range and landing heavy elbows, spinning elbows, things inside. So for me, the thing that I look at the most is pace. If Tony can do what Tony has done in the past and bring a pace, I think he can push. I've seen Beneil get tired at points. And when you get someone tired, they start to slow down in everything they're doing. Their offense starts to, you know, become negated basically by the fighter themselves because they're worried about being pushed over that edge and they're trying to grab air. And so if Tony can, I know Tony's going to come in shape, if he can push a pace and just be successful in forcing Beneil to be uncomfortable with the pace, I think Tony gets the win.
Yeah, I think I would say yes to that in a 5-round fight. I don't know if I'd say yes to that in a 3-round fight.
Yeah, and that's very true, and that's why I said he's got to push the pace. If he can't make it an uncomfortable pace for Daryush, I think Daryush wins the fight. So it's a very good matchup, you know, and it's really because Tony's coming off of a couple losses. What's up here? You know, he's a tough dude. I'm not saying that in any way. I love him, but anybody that's coming off of 2 losses, I don't care who you are. There's those little thoughts that start going in your head, and you, as soon as anything starts to go bad, it's tough to push that to the side and say, it doesn't matter, and just keep going. Tony can do that, but like I said, anybody starts to get those thoughts. And so if things start to go bad in any fashion, is he going to start thinking, holy Christ, it's happening again? And the wheels are going to start to come off of the cart. I think Tony is mature enough, had enough experience that, he'll keep himself together, but this is a toss-up fight. It really is.
Yeah, I think he's mentally strong enough to push through that. But what concerns me is the amount of damage he took in both those last fights. And at the age that he is, you just know that fighters don't recover physically and mentally as much from those type of fights. The Justin Gaethje fight sent the tempo, and then the Charles Oliveira fight, that was more of like the arm being hurt. There was a lot of positions there. He was in tight positions for submissions that he snuck out of, but was like pushed to the limit. It's that your body's not the same. Your body doesn't respond. Your head needed more time to recover after the Justin Gaethje fight.
Oh, the Gaethje fight. He took an incredible amount of damage.
Yep.
In that Gaethje fight. And this is when we talk about, sometimes fighters leave bits and pieces of themselves in that cage. Tony left a large chunk in that cage that night. When he walked out with less than he walked in with.
Yeah. Look, I got to tell you guys from personal experience, my first fight with Gilbert Melendez, I walked out of there like unscathed, a couple little marks. My second fight, though, I literally had to sleep sitting up because I had to sleep with a neck roll pillow in the couch because my head, I couldn't put it down. I had so many lumps all over my head, it hurt to put my head down. Not to mention every time I put it down, I felt like I was getting a headache. So I couldn't do it. I had to sleep for 3 nights with a neck roll pillow sitting up on my couch. The third fight, I felt like it was one of those fights I left a piece of me in there. For the second fight, I was still young enough. I just didn't feel like I felt anything. But by the third fight, I was 34, I think, years old by the time I fought the third fight, 34 or 35. And I felt like I wasn't the same guy after that fight. And then sure, I had success against Nate, but Nate didn't hit me really at all, and it was a very smart game plan on how I fought it. But I always knew that I took that game plan against Nate because I stole it from George St. Pierre and I stole it from Carlos Condit on how they fought him, and a little bit of Benson as well on how they fought the Diaz brothers. But I wasn't the same, I think, after that third fight with Gil, and that led into the way I started fighting after that. I was never the person, like when I fought Benson, I was never the person to stay on the outside and stick and move. And I know I hurt my thumb and my wrist and all the other stuff, but it changed the way I fight after the third Gilbert fight, as I stood my ground and just circled on the outside and I was picking and choosing my shots. Whereas before, when I was younger, like Tony was, like he would just come forward and do whatever, didn't care about the results. And are we going to see that same Tony? Because now those last 2 fights have taken a lot out of him. Whether he believes it or not, mentally, I think he's mentally strong. When I got into the fight with Tony, mentally strong, there's no doubt I got through the whole fight. Like the amount of damage I took, a lot of fighters were just turned over and tapped. And we've seen it countless times where they just give their back and give up a submission. There was plenty of opportunities in the Kimura where I could have just tapped and gave up, or any other situation where, he had me in a submission and he was elbowing my head. I think one was like almost in a triangle and was elbowing the shit out of me and cutting me up more. And I could have gave up at any moment, but mentally tough is where Tony's at. So if I want to give a comparison, you guys, I'm not trying to say that I am Tony, but I'm saying we're at that same kind of age and time frame in which Tony is fighting right now. Is I was 37 when I fought Tony. And mentally tough, I was able to push through, but your body's not able to do it. You know what I mean? And I was coming off 2 losses like he's coming off now. We're almost in the same exact spot, And he was, I believe, 32 when he fought me. Was around that 32 years old when he fought me, and look at where Daryush is now and look at where Tony is now. This is very similar. So
damn eerie.
It's crazy to me. It really is. So when I talk
it's
about
just
it,
the truth. It's just what
happens. I want people to understand. I know exactly, I don't just try to relate it in terms of hey, see, I told you so. I'm just trying to say this is during this time that we've talked about Cowboy Cerrone, we talked about Diego Sanchez. I give you guys a lot of feedback on, hey, when I knew it was time to retire. And guess what? Today, Alan Jouban, he retired. You know, and Alan Jouban has just talked about like it was just time. And I think he's pushing that 37 as well. 37.
He's 38.
38. So
38.
This is kind of, you know, nothing against Tony. And I like I said, I want him to be successful. But this is after 2 fights like that, John. It doesn't matter mentally how strong mentally you are. Your body is just not the same. And that's
well, it just doesn't respond the same way. It's you know, mentally you're there and you're telling yourself, you know, I'm good, and you're going with techniques. They're just not responding as fast or as powerful. It's just there's just a degree, 2 degrees off of what it used to be, and that's the difference of winning. When you're talking about fighting a world-class fighter, we're talking about, you know, not even sometimes 1%. We're talking about, you know, a 0.5% difference makes a huge difference in the fight. Yeah. And we're going to see if that's where Tony's at this point in his career.
We'll see if the crowd makes a difference too, because he is someone that rises.
Yes, that is a big factor.
Yeah. Let's get into this main event, buddy.
It's a great main event. I love this main event. I think the lightweights overall in the UFC, it's a stacked division. It's got so many good fighters, and you could replace these 2 guys with 2 other ones, and it would still be a great, you know, championship fight. I love what, you know, the UFC is doing as far as bringing this fight. I think it's a smart one. You know, especially since they have the Conor versus Poirier trilogy fight coming up in July. But this is a pick'em fight. Either guy can win. Both have their strengths. Both have, you know, elements that they're better at than the other guy. The real question is, can you put that guy into your world instead of him putting you into his?
I just don't see how Michael Chandler loses this fight.
Oh, look at you.
You know, I mean, I said months ago, I said, like, stylistically, the submissions would be there for Charles, but does he have enough strength? 1, and 2 is Chandler has fought a lot of really high-end jiu-jitsu guys. I don't know if any of them have been as high-end as Charles Oliveira and as sneaky as him. I know, like, Marcin Held is good. Goichi Yamauchi, good. You know, very, very impressive, very good. But were they quite like on the level of Charles Oliveira? But in that other aspect, to me, Marcin Held and Goichi are bigger than Charles Oliveira. Maybe not as tall, but they're thicker. I think they're just a thicker. They're. I feel like they seem like they're physically stronger.
Goichi is thicker than. Yeah, I would say both are. You're right.
Yeah, they're both like thicker guys. They're know maybe pushing around that, maybe an inch shorter or something like that.
Well, you got to figure Charles actually used to fight at 145.
Yeah, I know. That's what my point is. My point is that when I'm getting to that is that Charles, he came up from 45. I don't feel like he's a very big 55 pounder. I think he's had a lot of success because he is very talented. He's very good. Chandler's got to be very careful of the submissions. He can't take any of that stuff for granted, but I don't see him trying to get this fight to the ground. I see Chandler keeping this fight on the feet the whole time and just touching him up with his power.
I think one of the things, somehow, I'm not sure if it's part of it or not, but somehow I think because they have one common opponent. If you go back and you look at the records and everything, and their one common opponent is a guy that Michael Chandler lost twice to, Will Brooks. And Oliveira choked Will Brooks out in the first round, I believe. So if you look at that, Oliveira's looking at that, and that's giving him confidence. That's making him feel good. I'm not sure that he should be looking at it that way. I don't know if that's Michael's a completely different fighter as far as some of the things that he does now than what he did back then. The physical strength of Chandler is going to be the real problem, in my opinion, for Oliveira. Physically, Michael is strong. He's got a great work ethic. He's got a super strong core. He does take damage though, and he does show damage. And Oliveira is a he's a good striker also. Don't just look at his submission game. He's got knockout power. He can piece you up. He's got, technically good striking. And if he could keep Chandler towards the outside in the striking realm and just start to put shots on him, he could do well against Chandler in the stand-up. And if it gets to the ground, obviously he's got a great submission game. But Chandler has proven that he's damn good with submission fighters. He's got, a lot of wrestlers, when they get on the ground with a good submission guy, they tend to hold and not move their hips. Chandler doesn't do that. Chandler moves. He keeps you in position. He doesn't allow you to get those angles that cause him problems. And he's got a very heavy ground and pound. And if it gets to that point where it's becoming a ground battle with Chandler on top and Oliveira going for submissions underneath, that's not the way for Oliveira to win the fight.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I completely spaced Brent Primus. Brent Primus is a savage on the ground, and he's extremely big. Way bigger than Chandler, way bigger than Charles Oliveira.
Yes.
Probably walks around about 205 and makes 155. He is enormous. I don't know how the guy makes the weight, but he's phenomenal off the ground. And I've seen him in Sug. He's armbarred Jake Shields, guys like that. He's had great matches against other top black belts and other top jiu-jitsu practitioners in just grappling.
Yep.
And Chandler was able to weather those submission attempts as well during their second fight. And so to think that Charles, but that's also what I think with Charles is, if he's going to catch Chandler, he's going to catch him in transition. If Chandler shoots and leaves his head in the wrong position, he's going to hit him with that guillotine and potentially get not Chandler to panic, but it could be slapped on quick enough to where Chandler has no way of escaping. I could see that potentially happen. Sure. Or some sort of like in a scramble, he's able to transition to the armbar real quick. And
that's not going to happen.
It just catches Chandler off guard. That's the only thing I can think of, because Chandler does tend to posture up and throw heavy shots, and he sometimes will leave himself out of position because he is trying to throw heavy shots.
Yes.
And so if that happens, Charles is very good at his transitions. They're very quick. They're very fast, as we saw with Tony Ferguson. And once it's on, he's good at getting to that point. He's a finisher. We've seen that before in the past. He wasn't able to finish Tony, but it was close, a second or two away. And so Chandler's a different breed, I think, when it comes to defending the submissions, and he will not tap for shit. He will go, basically, I believe he'll go out before he does that. And he may even possibly let the arm break. Who knows? But I mean, there's a lot of things in there that he will be able to try and attack, because Chandler is overly aggressive sometimes. So Charles got to catch him in transition. That's the only time I see him catching him in terms of grappling. I think if he gets to his back, Chandler's very good at wrist control. He's very good at pulling the arm aside. He does his little spin out of there. Oliveira is a next level, though, of getting to the back and attacking from that position. But I really believe I've seen guys figure four Chandler and him still be able to spin within their body. I almost feel like his gut and his waist is bigger than
it is. So it's blocky.
Because
he's got a very strong core. He doesn't have that bodybuilder looking, waistline. He's got that CrossFit waistline, big, heavy core that's very strong, and it works for him. And like you're saying, the one submission that I would look in and say, this is if Oliveira gets a submission win, in my opinion, it's going to be a guillotine.
Yeah.
Michael sticking his head to the side on a takedown, something, or it could be Oliveira landing a good shot and Michael then shooting, with his head in position, grabs the guillotine, and he has got a very good guillotine, arm in guillotine, both of them. He knows how to apply that pressure, and he's good with it. So.
Yeah, the other thing is he's got Charles Oliveira's got the skinnier arms, so it gets underneath that chin. It's gonna be a little bit harder to get out of there. I mean, strength wise, but as long as he's got the proper technique, it can happen fast. And that's the thing. People think like with Brent Primus, he's got big forearms. He's a big guy. Yamauchi, same thing. Big forearms. He's got thicker upper body. In terms of Marcin Held, that's more of leg locks, knee bars, things like that. And that's something that Chandler was able to wiggle out of here and there. But I mean, there was a couple scares there in that fight as well. If Oliveira, you brought up Will Brooks. If Oliveira's taking that fight and trying to compare that's the common opponent, that's a huge mistake.
I know.
Mistake. And the reason why, like you were to touch on what you were saying, Will Brooks is nothing like Charles Oliveira when it comes to fighting. Will Brooks is a mover, a sticker and mover, and outpoints you and make you look bad. But he's not going to go out there and put the tempo on you and try and put the pressure on you and try and go after you. He was faster than Chandler. He was a little bit more athletic than Chandler, and he was able to touch him and get in and get out and stuff the takedowns as well. So he also had Chandler's number. I think, and like we were talking about, is Chandler's at a different place now in his life in terms of where he was then. The confidence is not, confidence is key is in every sport, but in this sport specifically it is. And I think right now Chandler's right on a high. And so I think, I don't know if, I can't see, if it's within the 3, I see Chandler getting the finish. If it's outside of the 3, it's going to be Oliveira. It's going to be a close one, though, because Chandler does slow down. Charles does too at 45. I haven't seen him slow down. I haven't seen him. He hasn't fought a 5-round fight at 55, I don't think.
Well, he hasn't made it to a 5-round fight.
Okay, so I haven't seen him fight a 5-round fight at 55. Is he the same fighter at that weight class? That's Chandler. That's not, I'm talking about the other one, Oliveira. Has he fought a 5-round fight at 55?
Well, I know his Keith Lee fight was a 5-round fight, but he didn't go there.
He's only been at 55 for a couple fights, so no, so he hasn't. So he's gone 3-1. Yeah, so in terms of like if he gets in, I know he did slow down at 45. Was he cutting too much weight, and that's why he was slowing down?
Might have been.
And so when you get into that part of it, will he have a lot more energy than Chandler? Chandler's been at 55. He cuts a lot of weight himself. He does slow down. We've seen it countless times. He slows down in rounds 4 and 5. But he's very dynamic in the first 3 rounds.
Yep. Michael slows down on people that can push the pace on him. That meet him on those occasions where he likes to come out fast, and they kind of start off with him. And as you know, the thing that Oliveira has to do is when Michael disengages, when he backs off, when he takes the step out and does his little bounce, don't give him that space. Don't let him have the bounce. That's him taking his breath. That's how he gets himself back collected again. Press him on those. Don't give them to him.
Yeah. Yeah, Benson had the right idea. He just wasn't able to execute it in their last fight. He had the right idea in terms of like every time Chandler stepped back to press into him and make him work. Don't give him a chance to take his deep breath and recoup himself. One
thing that Chandler's really put into his tool bag, though, that we got to talk about is he's got that switch step now where he takes a step and he'll throw the right hand, but he slides his foot in so his left hook is set up. So his hips are aligned with a big left hook, and it closes the distance for him. It doesn't look like he can reach, but when he takes that switch step, now it puts him in position where he can reach, and he's gotten very good at it. That's how he knocked out Benson, and that's how he knocked out Dan Hooker. So that's been working for him. So that's something that Oliveira really has to be careful of and has to look for.
Yeah, when you do that switch stance, Rockhold used to do that quite a bit into his right hook. So what you do is it actually closes the distance like you were saying, but you can throw the loopy hook off of it. It is how he caught both of them, Benson and Hooker. That's how Chandler caught both of them. But he could also throw a straight left. So if they do step back, at least he can still slide in to cover the distance with the straight left as well. And he's got to make that decision, though, depending on how his opponent moves and which direction they go. Do they move back or do they move circling away from the power? So what it's doing is it's creating that backhand, which is normally not his power hand. Now it's a power hand. So all he's doing is switching his stance, and now he's giving more power out of that straight left or that left hook. So it's as if it's like another right hook or another straight right. So it's generating that much power from a switch stance. As long as he knows how to throw it, which apparently he does. So, overall, don't get me wrong, I'm not counting Charles Oliveira out, but I am leaning a lot towards Chandler. I think if Chandler does get in trouble, he can wrestle. He can compose himself. We saw that's what he did against Benson. And if he's not in trouble, he can keep it at bay if he wants. And he creates the distance and he steps in with his power. Charles is going to have to respect his power. There's no doubt about that. And so if he doesn't respect his power, he's going to be lights out. And people, I think, underestimate how explosive Michael Chandler is in those first 2 rounds.
That would be a bad mistake.
Huge mistake. But the key, though, to me, honestly, is if Charles Oliveira throws a ton of kicks towards that calf kick, and Michael Chandler has had issues with that, if he does that, knowing that Michael Chandler probably is not going to try to jump into his guard right off the bat or try to take him down right off the bat, I mean, I could see him having some success with the calf kick, in the earlier rounds, which will pay dividends in the fourth and fifth round.
I was gonna have to reboot you there.
Gosh. No, I'll tell you, same thing. I was like, he's mumbling.
Yeah,
what is up?
I'm talking too fast. You know what I mean? So it's there. It's there to be had, but can he get it done?
Yeah, it's the real question. They've both fought great competition throughout their careers. So you can take a look and, people can say what they want. Chandler has fought everyone. He had wars against Eddie Alvarez twice. He's had some great competition. Same with Oliveira. It's an even matchup going in. I think Oliveira has his strengths. I think, he's got the length a little bit on Chandler as far as height. He probably has a little bit more reach. He's got the submission game. Chandler's got the wrestling game. Chandler's got the power. I think Charles has got more of the technician style in the stand-up. But I can't wait for this fight. It's going to be a fantastic fight.
Well, John, boom, that's a great segue into our mybookie.ag. Mybookie.ag.
Are we weighing in on the odds?
We're going to weigh in on the odds, you guys.
Damn, I love doing that.
Use the promo code Wayne in for a little extra cash. You guys can bet on this fight. You guys can bet on that fight and the Tony Ferguson and Daryush fight, as well as all the rest of the card. You guys can bet on these, and we're going to give you guys our analysis of what we think would be best for you guys to bet on using our promo code Weighing In. You guys do that, mybookie.ag will give you a little extra cash. You guys can spend on it. So let's go ahead and break this down. Michael Chandler is the underdog at plus 105 against Charles Oliveira minus 135. It's close, but it's still, I would take Chandler. Just my personal opinion. I would take Chandler, especially it says the over at 2.5. Well, he's the underdog and over at 2.5. So
that's not underdog. No, understand. The over 2.5 is plus 130. So if you say it's going to go over 2.5, you put down $100 to win $130. Mm-hmm. Okay. At under 2.5 right now, it's minus 160. So the odds makers are saying that this fight will not go over 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, if it's Michael Chandler. Yeah.
Well, if you're looking at it that way, then you take the plus 105. You put $100 down to win 105. Hello. That's Michael Chandler right now. And I'm in this type of situation. It has nothing to do with if Oliveira was the underdog, I'd put the money on Oliveira because I always, looking at a fight that either guy can win, you can sit there and say you always go with the underdog. But I think Chandler's got a very good chance of winning this fight, coming out on top, using his power, using his wrestling. Plus 105, not a bad bet.
Yeah, I would take the Chandler bet as well. Plus 105.
I am surprised by the Tony Ferguson, Beneil Dariush odds, though.
Why?
Daryush is the favorite at minus 170.
Well,
Tony's an underdog.
I guess my bookie has been paying attention to our podcast because that's kind of how I would have it. I don't know. I mean, I can't say whether the number is adequate for it, but I mean, it's plus 140 for Tony Ferguson, minus 170 for Daryush. The over is minus 160 and the under is plus 150 at 2.5.
Yeah. Tell you what, that plus 150 at 2.5, because this fight could end. It could end with a submission. It could end with a knockout. You're looking at Tony saying nobody's finished Tony really except Gaethje in the 5th round. Oliveira didn't finish him even though he was damn close. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think I would go with the finish. I think it's going to go the distance.
I don't either. I would go with the
distance.
Yep.
It's going to be the over. It's going to be the over 2.5. It's going to go the distance. Even if Tony or I don't see it. I think it's going to end up on the feet the whole time, and I think it's going to go the distance. They're just going to beat the shit out of each other. That's really what it's going to go down to. But I think at the end of it, Daryush is going to be the one that gets his hand raised. Okay. Just my opinion. Like I said, it's going to be hard for Tony to come back from those two really tough fights that he lost to, recently had. So that to me, that's why I'm leaning that way. Let's go. Edson Barboza is plus 100, and Shane Burgos is minus 130.
Shane Burgos is the favorite.
I don't know.
He is.
I know that.
Saying right there.
That's what it's saying.
I know you're going, I don't think so, but that's Do
you take plus 100 for Barboza?
I like the way Shane Burgos fights. I love Edson Barboza as a fighter, but certain matchups, I don't know. Yeah. Whew, it's a tough one.
Oh man,
I'm so pathetic at this now.
Oh man, I mean honestly it's kind of a pick 'em fight on what style you like, but do you think Burgos is gonna just make it a boxing match? Do you think he's gonna just step in and try and get after him?
I do, because he's a smart fighter. His coaches are smart, and they know where Edson is dangerous. Why are you gonna play another man's game? Why are you going to stay on the outside with a guy that on the outside, he's as good as anybody there is in that weight class? Is he not?
No, he is.
Okay, so why are you going to do that? Why are you going to play that game? So it tells me that Burgos is going to say, I'm going to put you on your back foot. I'm going to put pressure on you. I'm going to crush the space so your kicks are taken out of the equation for the most part in this fight. And I'm going to make you fight the way I want you to fight. That's with your hands. He's not the greatest boxer type, just, stand-up fighter when it comes to just using his hands as he is when he's able to utilize all of his tools.
Do we see a motivated Edson Barboza because
money doesn't make a difference when you're fighting? Come on. You're happy that you're making more money, but it doesn't make you a better fighter.
This is true. But it does help with your confidence, which is very good.
Well, it makes you feel good. And you're happy while you're there.
Oh, so you're taking Burgos at the minus.
I'm taking Burgos on this one.
All right. I'm going to decline on answering because
I'm
not sure. I'm leaning towards Barboza. I'm leaning towards Barboza, though, just to be honest.
All right. Well, it's a close, and this is where I love when it's that close. Mm-hmm. Plus 100 or a minus 1. That's basically you're picking the guy you think is going to win the fight.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. Well, that's our weighing in on the odds. Those are the 3 fights that we would probably bet on if we were going to do it. I technically didn't really bet on the third one, but if you guys want to take John's advice on the third one, you guys go right ahead. But I gave you my 2 cents on the other 2 fights, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And that's our weighing in on the odds with mybookie.ag. Use the promo code weighing in. And they'll give you some extra cash to bet on these fights. That is for your very first initial deposit, by the way. All right. Well, let's get into some news.
Well, first, I think John wanted to touch on the fight that fell off, which was Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards, which is actually only pushed out till next month.
Yeah. A lot of people are talking about that fight like it's, there's, Nate is trying to, stay away from that fight. No, he's not. Things happen. Injuries occur, sometimes you can't handle all the things that life brings you. So I just want to say, hey, that fight's coming up. It's okay. It's kind of good. It's going to be on another show. So Leon Edwards, dynamite fighter. I do think he's the favorite in that fight, but Nate Diaz didn't just back out of that fight. There was a problem, and he's dealing with that problem, and he's going to be healthy. So do you want to see a guy who's not healthy and can't perform, or do you want to see the guy at his best? That's all. I was hearing some stuff. It's like, you don't know.
If Nate Diaz wanted to back out of the fight, he would have never signed the contract. He's someone that kind of calls his own shots. He wanted that fight. The reason why he signed the contract, because he was willing to take the fight, because he knows if he wins that fight, he can jump the line and potentially get a title shot and make more money.
Hello.
he's not stupid. He knows exactly what his worth is now. He's got to capitalize on it the best he can and make as much money as he possibly can. And he's doing that. So let's just leave him alone. He's not someone that backs down from fights. We know that. And
when was it that he backed down from a fight?
Exactly. If he doesn't want the fight, he won't entertain it. He'll be like, yeah, whatever. I'll see you later. He would never have signed the contract if he didn't want the fight. So he's willing to do it, and we all know why. He's trying to jump the line and make more money, which is brilliant on his part. Him and his brother do it, and they made their career off of it. I think it's brilliant for them to do that. Tip my hat to those guys, man. I wish I was them. When it comes to that type of shit, it's true. What else you got for us?
So jumping into some news, Dana White did an interview with ESPN, and he talked about if they can't get the Jones and Ngannou fight, the possibility of Jones versus Stipe can happen.
I don't think so. I'm sure Dana would say, yeah, we'll put on that fight. It's a good fight. I'm not saying it's not. I just don't think that's. Jones wants money, and he knows he's not going to get as much money with Stipe when Stipe's not the champion. And he wants the champion, and he wants the money, and I think he's going to try to ride this out, and get people and public opinion and pressure put on the UFC to do something that they both come to an agreement. Again, this all comes down to this, and Josh, you've been in this situation too many times. Promoters are trying to get you for the cheapest amount they can. That's their job. That's how they make money. The fighter is trying to get the promoter to pay them the most money that they can get. That's their job, and that's how they do their thing, and that's what makes them happy. Eventually, you got to meet somewhere in the middle, or the fight will never happen. So both sides are going to have to, acquiesce a little bit and make it to where everybody feels at least comfortable with what's being done, and then the fight will happen. But no one's ever going to get exactly what they want. The promoter's not going to get exactly what they want, and the fighter's not going to get exactly what they want.
The only reason why I think maybe this will happen is stylistically it's an easier fight for Jon Jones, I think. Just my opinion. I just think why stylistically when Stipe is a much better wrestler? I agree.
Than Francis,
but he's not a better wrestler than Jon Jones.
I didn't say he's a better wrestler than Jon, but he's a much better wrestler than Francis. And technically, take away the power, he's technically probably a cleaner stand-up fighter than Francis.
Yeah, but I think Stipe will have a hard time with his athleticism. And the things that Jon will bring to the table, he's going to have a hard time dealing with. That thigh kick, that'll be a problem. The length of him will be a big problem. I think his reach is going to be longer than Stipe's. He's going to be able to touch him, keep him at bay. Stipe is not as fast as Jon Jones. I think it's gonna be in that.
Come on, think about that, dude. Think about that.
No, I don't think so. Look, it's not even if they're the same speed. Let's just say they are. Let's just say that.
I'll say they are.
Jon's longer.
Not much.
Can we pull up there?
Stipe is 6'4".
No, reach wise,
6'5". Okay. Yeah, I would say that. Look, Jon's got a freakish
83
reach. 84 inch reach. Crazy. I would say Stipe is somewhere around 79 to 80.
I think that big, huh?
Yeah, I would bet.
So Jon Jones reaches
84 and a half.
84.
And Stipe's is 80.
So 4.5 inches.
It's not that much, man.
That's enough to make a difference on whether it gets to the target or not.
Good. Do me a favor. Pull up Alexander Gustafsson. See what his reach was.
Oh, goodness. Trying to spell this.
Just put, yeah. That's true.
Spell this?
There it is right there.
There it is.
You got lucky.
Yeah, I got it right.
Gustafsson.
79.
Okay. Who's the guys that have given Jon problems? Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, the guys
Gustafsson
that are long.
Guys that are long. Guess what? That's what Stipe is.
I don't look at it that way, John. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think I think the Stipe fight is an easier fight for Jon than the Ngannou fight. No, don't get me wrong. I think Jon could take him down, but Jon's got to get in there first. That's the scariest part of it all, right?
That is the scariest part.
That's the scariest part of it all.
But then again, if you're not a little worried by that, you're not that bright.
Yeah, and we've also seen that Francis has got a little bit better at stuffing the takedowns that we saw against Stipe. Look, I know. I'm not here to bash on Stipe. I'm not.
Yes, you are. You do it consistently all the time. Ask our followers.
Don't ask them.
Ask them.
So I'm not here to bash on him. I think that the Jon fight is an easier fight. I think Stipe, if he was to fight Francis again, I think he's got a good chance of beating Francis. But I think Jon he just brings out a ton of tools that are just dangerous for him. The athleticism, the reach, the knees, the spinning elbows, those are things that heavyweights are not.
Yeah, but he doesn't have all that much power.
Okay, well, we don't know either at heavyweight how much power he has.
It may change, but you've got to go with what you've seen. And this is not saying anything, bad about Jon, but power has always been the one thing that you can look at throughout his career and say, oh, he's more of a volume guy. He goes after someone with a lot of techniques, a lot of volume, a lot of things that add up that beat someone down, and then he gets the knockout. Mm-hmm. So he's not that one punch guy. And so I look at this fight with Stipe, it's a lot more dangerous for Jon than I think you're giving credit to. I think that Stipe will do very well against Jon. I'm not saying that Jon can't beat him. He definitely can. He's that good. But Stipe could beat Jon.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
No, look, when we're talking, like you had said earlier, we're talking maybe a fraction of a percentage.
Little tiny bit.
Guys are. And we don't know what to expect from Jon Jones. Will he have the same conditioning at heavyweight that he had at 205?
Will he have the speed?
Will he have the speed?
Carrying more weight.
I've seen him hitting mitts. He doesn't look like it. So I'm just saying, I saw a video of Jon Jones hitting mitts, and I was like, please tell me that's not full speed. It's full speed. Okay. So there's a lot of things that I've seen that I don't know. There's questions to be answered, but I think if I look at him at 205 and I look at Stipe at heavyweight, and I say the two things together, I'm going to give the advantage to Jon. And I know I'm not trying to take anything away from Stipe.
For the rest of our podcast and the rest of Stipe's career, and even after he retires, I am going to say that you are dogging him.
I'm not. I'm a Stipe fan, man. I'm a Stipe fan.
I love the guy. He's just a good person, man. He's blue collar.
Yeah. To answer the question, though, no, I don't think that Dana's going to be able to get that fight done, though.
I don't either.
I don't think so.
Not that, and I'm going to say not that I don't think Stipe would do it. I don't think Jon's going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's just not the money he wants of the guy he wants. I could be wrong.
Next piece of news is Scott Coker saying that the next Grand Prix will likely be the bantamweight.
Has to be.
And so we got the bantamweight division right here.
Has to be. You could take a look at that bantam, and even there's people that are not even on that list based upon they haven't competed at a certain. Even Darian Caldwell, who should be on that list, is not because he hasn't competed at bantamweight in the 15-month period or something like that. Horiguchi's another one. You have got, if you're going to take 8, you're going to be dropping out some good fighters in there.
Yeah. I think you're going to drop Cass Bell out of there.
Well, yeah, but he's 9 already, so he's already out.
Yeah, so he'll drop out. I think you'll probably drop Lugo because he's still kind of a little bit inexperienced.
Okay.
But then you're going to put in Horiguchi and Darian Caldwell. So one of those else is going to have to go.
Somebody else in there is going.
Leandro Higo is fighting coming up soon. I'm trying to remember who he's fighting. Gosh.
Darian Caldwell.
That's right, Darian Caldwell.
Hello.
Gosh. So that fight is coming up, so that will kind of determine, I think, kind of where they're going to sit. But yeah, I can see that tournament probably starting sometime around December.
That would be a great tournament.
Yep. I think to me, I feel like this is outside of the 45s. I think this is the next stacked division, the most stacked division in Bellator. We've got the 35s, we've got the 45s, and then
light heavyweights are pretty damn good.
I didn't say they weren't, but I didn't say.
But we've lost a couple.
But we could actually make this. I mean, if we wanted to, we could dig deep. We could make this, because guys like Lugo and Brian Moore, and we could make this into a 16-man tournament. It'd be a little watered down at the top.
Yep.
But like I said, we don't have as many fighters as the UFC. We know we've got 300 something fighters on our roster. UFC's got over 600.
600.
So but we could do a tournament, a 16-man tournament. I think there'd be some watered down, maybe the top, the say 15 and 16 somewhere, 14, 15, 16. But it doesn't mean that those ones there at the top couldn't make their way at least into the semifinals or the quarters. So I think it'd be something to be had. But I like to keep it to 8 because I think those would be the best fights, to be honest.
Yep, I agree.
But overall, it has to happen. It has to happen. Great fights too.
Next piece of news, just coming out a couple of days ago, Anthony Johnson was arrested following his fight at Bellator 258. There was so the report basically came out and said, according to police reports, it was an illegal use of a credit card in November 2019. And I guess it looks like it just caught up with him.
John, you used to be you're a former cop.
Yes, sir.
Sir. And
have I seen this type of thing before? Yes, sir.
Exactly. What is this usually related to?
Man, I hate to say it. Anthony, you have this thing with women. You piss them off because you find other women. I'm just being honest. I really think that what's occurred here is Anthony used a girlfriend, you want to say, or an associate, whatever you want to say, but used the credit card of somebody that then found out, or maybe he even bought the ticket. And hold on, this is the whole part. He bought a ticket with his name. Do you think he was trying to steal from somebody?
Yeah.
You don't buy a ticket with your name. If you're gonna, steal someone's credit card and use it fraudulently, you're gonna be doing it so no one can associate you or put you with the crime. So there was no intent to create a crime there. You can tell that by the fact he used his name on a plane ticket.
You had to show your ID, by the way.
Exactly. And I think that, I think somewhere along the way, this has to do with a crime of not believing you're doing a crime and pissing someone off, and there being some type of broken heart associated with it. And so my way of getting back is I'm going to say that, you used my card fraudulently, and you shouldn't have done that. And what did they really have? Nothing.
I don't know that aspect of it all too much, but I know AJ pretty well, and knowing that he just made an obscene amount of money for his last fight, and just knowing that he has made plenty of money before in the past. He was making really good money from before when he was in the UFC, and he is involved in
all kinds of things,
all different types of other things that are generating him money now. Okay,
which only would make me go, AJ, why are you using someone else's credit card? Yeah, come on.
I understand that. But I would have to agree with you. It probably has to do with some sort of, vendetta towards broken.
Yeah, but he pissed somebody off.
Yeah. But regardless, look, I know that he's not a thief. I know he doesn't need to be a thief. He's got plenty of money. And like you said, why would you show your ID as well as use your real name if you're trying to cause or use.
You're actually trying to get away with a crime.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Doesn't make sense.
All right.
Next piece of news is Dan Hardy asking for his UFC release. He says he wants to fight in Japan.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, I okay, hold on. Let's take a look at this, because this is where it gets absolutely crazy, ridiculous. The fact that the UFC or anybody, be it if it was Bellator, be it if it was PFL, that they could hold your contract because you retired. Now, they could fire you from commentating. They can fire you from the promotion, but they still have the right to your fights, and you can't fight anywhere. That's just wrong. If they're going to fire him in any fashion from the organization and he's not going to be part of them after, this whole thing with, upsetting somebody over whatever it was and then releasing him and saying, no more commentating stuff, then he should be able to go anywhere he wants and fight. Now, here's the question is, he was sidelined from fighting based upon a heart condition. They're not going to check for that heart condition in Japan. So is it something that we want to see? Because the last thing I'd want to see is for Dan Hardy to be in the fight and have some type of heart condition problem pop up in the middle of the fight. That would be horrible. So I wouldn't want to see that either. But no one should have the right to hold on to somebody in that fashion once they've let you go in another way. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah. The reason why they do that is because he was a former contender. I believe he did fight for the title, correct?
Yep. Fought GSP.
Yeah, GSP. It's because he was somewhat of a name in the organization. They don't want him to go off and lose and just give notoriety to the other promotions. That's the way I feel about it. I think that's what we've seen history, that they try to hold on to you as long as they can until there's really no value to you anymore. Yeah. And they know that, like, no matter what, it's been so many years since you fought in there. Now people have kind of forgotten that you had fought there, and then you can move on. I don't know. Just to be honest. I don't know. I would like, as long as he's healthy, I would like to see him fight again. And I think you are right that they should not be allowed to hold your contract for forever. There should be a term limit on the end of it. Let's say, like, hey, look, if I haven't fought for you for 5 years, I should be released of this.
Yeah, because you're talking about if someone hasn't fought in that amount of time, it's not like they're giving away their career. 5 years?
Yeah.
They should be able to walk away and go wherever they want. His last fight was in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're talking 8 years, 9 years now? Come on. There's no way anyone should have the ability to hold on to the right to him and he can't fight somewhere else. No, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Free Dan Hardy.
Free Dan Hardy. The outlaw. Free him.
Free Dan Hardy.
And
just look at that. Crazy.
Last piece of news before we jump into some fan stuff is Dana White coming out and saying that he'll give Cowboy one last fight at lightweight, and that's kind of like his fight for survival fight.
Okay.
Well, is it fight for survival because he's going to just give him the one fight, and if he loses, he's done, but if he wins, he gets another one?
So that was kind of what it was alluded to. Yeah, it's like, this is make or break. You lose this fight, you're gone. Otherwise, we see what.
It's a fair assessment. I mean, just being honest.
Let's be honest. Dana owes Donald.
Yeah.
Donald has been there for Dana White and the UFC how many times? How many times has he said, yep, when they called? Sure, yep, I'll do it. Yep, I'm in. He doesn't say no. That's what leads to the situation where Dana White goes, I'll give you one more.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, the next bit of this, right? The other half of this, Dave, is the picture that you said.
Yeah, so there was kind of this like circulation that was going online where it was showing like a side by side of Cowboy's lost his last 6 fights, and then Woodley coming off of a title loss, lost 4 fights, and so like just that comparison of like, Cowboy wasn't a champ, has lost 6 fights, and here we are with getting another opportunity, whereas Woodley coming off of losing the title, only lost 4 fights, and here he is getting cut.
Okay, so John, you just said the answer right there.
Yeah, it's real simple. You have one guy who consistently says yes, sure, I'll do it, and you have another guy who consistently was a headache for the promotion, consistently said no, consistently said I want, and that's just your difference. It has nothing to do with one was a champion and one was. It has to do with the difference of the word of yes and the difference of the word of no. That's really the difference here.
Yeah, Dana came out, I think, publicly once or twice and said that Tyron Woodley is probably the most difficult champion he ever worked with.
Okay, there you go. That kind of says it all.
Yeah, I mean, but then the week later they were at a baseball game together or a football.
Yeah, that's
You know
fine.
what I mean, he was that's Dana trying to smooze him, trying to get him to sign a contract, which means at some point in time he said no.
Yeah.
Whereas Donald Cerrone has never done that. Even when there was title implications on the line, they called up Donald and said, "Hey, do you want this fight?" And then Donald goes out there and he fights and he loses. Now he loses his chance of fighting for a title.
Yep.
And it's happened to him several times. He was like 1 or 2 fights away or 1 fight away from a title shot, and he went and took a fight that was like a 2-week notice fight and then ends up losing. He ends up losing his chance at fighting for a title. I wouldn't go as far to say that he owes Donald, but I would go as far to say like it's nice to see Dana saying, "Hey, we understand what you've done for the promotion, and we're going to go ahead and continue to do this for you. Just got to show me something, buddy." I think there's a lot of pressure right now on the UFC to say, "Hey, these older guys, now with the Diego thing going on, that we need to start keeping an eye on them because they will fight until fucking forever." And we don't. And now it's getting to the point. What are we? 25 years, 26 years into the UFC? Am I correct? 26 years.
26.
Oh yeah,
20. Yeah, that's
27.
How 27 years.
28.
Yeah, so we're into those years now where now fighters have left the sport for long enough to where we're seeing the after effects of how athletes are physically, mentally, all those things. And so I think now it's starting to hit home a little bit with Dana and other promoters as well, and they need to start taking care of that situation maybe a little bit earlier. And that's kind of I think where Dana's at right now is like, "Donald, show me something. You show me something and I'll keep giving you fights, but you don't show me anything, I got to wrap it up, buddy." And so I think he is doing him. He's doing him a solid by letting him fight at 55 again and seeing if he can get it done. We'll see. Depends. We'll know if he's doing him a solid or not based on how damn good his opponent is.
There you
Who's
go.
his opponent? Is he giving him a top 5 guy? Is he giving him a top 10 guy? Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, who is he fighting? Who is he going to have him fight? He's going to give him a young and up and coming guy that's going to beat him and get him out, or is he going to, what is he? Is he trying to build a young star off of him? We're going to see. Is he doing him a solid? That's what we're going to see. So,
I don't know when you say doing him a solid. It's going to give him a fight.
yeah,
Not doing him a solid.
he's. He could have cut him.
He could have cut him, but Donald makes pretty decent money.
Yeah,
And anytime that a guy makes
a lot of money.
I didn't say anything about that, but anytime a guy makes pretty decent money, they don't like just giving them a fight.
That's true.
All right. So we do have a guest coming on today, but we'll do as much of this fan question / stuff that Josh gave me as before we get to our guest. So
Slash that I gave you.
So Josh, here is one that you handpicked, and this is actually I don't have a name attached to this, but he starts off with "and still," and then he says, "Is my every morning go-to at work, feeding plants, and Big John Real Punk keeping it real every week is 100. Can you guys drop some news on this younger audience that is listening on just how good BJ Penn was when he was top of his game? A young motivated beats all these guys. With respect to the newer generation, a motivated BJ Penn is a hard night out 100.
I'll get to BJ is, I think, a motivated BJ Penn, a young motivated BJ Penn. I think he gives almost all of these guys in this division, especially in the 155-pound division right now, a hard time. When you get to the Khabib fight, he has a hard time. You get to the Islam fight, he has a hard time. When you get to, I would maybe even say, no, because of the stand-up. I was going to say maybe like a Gregor Gillespie, only because we just saw the wrestling pedigree, all the scrambles, all those things. But BJ was so slick, so flexible, so talented on the ground. Even with top wrestlers, just the flexibility himself, they couldn't get to him. Look at Matt Hughes, tries to grab the leg, he circles to the back real quick and gets the choke. Top-level wrestlers had a hard time with him. It poses some threats, but all the guys that he had always had a hard time with, guys that could just out-wrestle him and hold him down, because his conditioning was always a factor. And so guys like Khabib, guys like Islam don't have conditioning, and they're big guys. The generation is different because BJ was Sure, he was a bigger guy as he left the UFC at 155 and then came back at 170. He was a bigger guy because he just didn't like the diet. But when he was making his run to the Jens Pulver fight, his coach Javier was actually taking him to go do his cardio and stuff. And he apparently didn't hold his hand. This is what I was told. He didn't hold his hand for the Jens Pulver fight, which was remarkable to me based on the fact that it was a title fight. But he didn't hold his hand throughout that whole camp, and it showed in the fight. But someone who is explosive that BJ was, it's a tendency to sometimes get tired. You see it with other fighters that are explosive, like BJ was when he was younger. So, do I think he beats everyone? Possibly not. But do I think he poses a threat for all of them? Absolutely.
First off, when BJ, just go back to when BJ came in. His first fight in the UFC, I think, was his second pro fight ever. It was against Joey Gilbert.
Yep.
And Joey was a good grappler. Gilbert grappling was big in the Midwest and stuff, and he came out and just annihilated Joey Gilbert.
It was his first pro fight ever.
Was that his first pro fight ever? Yeah.
Joey Gilbert.
Yeah. And got his back and just started landing shots. I did his second pro fight, which was against a remarkable fighter in Dean Thomas. At the time, Dean Thomas was one of the top lightweights in the world, if not number one. And just did a couple of, things, got into an omoplata situation, which no one really knew what an omoplata was at the time. A lot of people and stuff, that's way back a long time ago. And just pulled off a couple of different things. Hurt Dean, got the win there. Came out and starched Cal Uno in 11 seconds, I think it was. And that was his first three fights. He just was just this machine that, he never got out of the first round. Then he came up, he got a championship fight against Jens Pulver. And, I did that fight, and he had Jens, and this was the part where you could see it, because he had Jens in an armbar. I believe it was the second round, at the end of the second round, and it was tight. He had it, and bell goes off, round's over, and I go to break it, and Jens actually taps him saying, "Hey, let go," because he's got pressure on it. And that right there, BJ was done. He clicked out on that. It was, I had it. It should be over. It's not. I got to continue on. And you could just see a shift in him in that fight. And he got tired. And but he lost that fight, but then went on this incredible win streak, beating all kinds of guys and good guys. Beating, Matt Serra was a fight he had, and Takanori Gomi. He did that in Rumble in the Rock. He had all these great fights and would fight anybody at any weight. He even went up and fought Lyoto Machida, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was special. He was a fast twitch muscle fiber athlete. He did get tired if you were able to push him. That's how George St. Pierre figured out how do you beat him. You push him, you make him work. George had 2 wins against him. One of them was controversial. The second one was no doubt. And but when BJ was on top, he was phenomenal. He unfortunately ran into a guy named Frankie Edgar. And even while he was kind of still at the top of his game, Frankie Edgar just had the style that gave him fits. He was a guy that was a real fast motion fighter, a lot of movement. BJ liked to set his feet and throw heavy shots, and Frankie Edgar just volumed him to death. Just hit him with a lot of shots and never really got into a grappling match with him or anything like that. He would, get a takedown here and then pop up. But it was at the time when BJ was special, he could fight anyone. Do I think he would do well against the top guys now? Like you said, he would have been in trouble against Khabib. Khabib would have taken him down. Khabib would not have been submitted by him. And at one time, BJ's submission game was special. Everyone's kind of there now. And I'm not saying that they're as good as he is, everybody, but when you're talking about good submission guys now, it's tough to pull off submissions against a lot of these guys, man. And Khabib himself, he's good. His submission game is freaking top notch. So I think if you're looking at top guys, BJ would not have beaten Nurmagomedov. That wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, his jiu-jitsu at the time, because of his
Special.
ability, his dexterity, all those things was very special, and that's what made him so hard to take down for a lot for a lot of wrestlers. His balance, his flexibility was key. So I think that's what made him special back then. But then the control that Khabib has now, you know, and as well as Islam as well, like their style of sambo is just something that would have posed a lot of threats for him. You know, and the other thing as well is their conditioning, you know, especially Khabib's. His cardio is just something that he can wrestle all damn day. And not a lot of people can do that. And so his ability to wrestle, his power, BJ was someone that could deal with power. You know, he could take a shot to give a shot.
Oh, he had a jaw.
Yeah, and he possessed a lot of power in his own hands as well, as a lot of fighters found out. So he was tricky. He was good. But if I was to put them both in their prime, Khabib would have caused problems for him, but I'm not saying that Khabib couldn't have beat him, and I'm not saying that BJ couldn't have beat him. It would have been a great fight.
Well, and you're looking, I mean, BJ's record, I'm looking at it now, it's 16-14.
Mm-hmm.
But if he moved that down, you're going to see all of his losses were at the end of his career.
Yeah.
He had the first loss against Jens Pulver. He had a loss against Matt Hughes at UFC 63, I remember. But you know, most of him, you know, Lyoto Machida being the heavyweight fight that he should never have done. But
well, he was weighing 190 and Lyoto was 220.
Yeah,
you know, so
still
he shouldn't have fought him.
He was a chubby 190.
Yes, very chubby 190.
He was very happy, but he was chubby.
Yeah.
But the guys that, you know, all of his losses, when Frankie Edgar beat him, that was the start. You know, he beat Matt Hughes again, and he had loss after loss after loss after loss. It just went downhill from that point. So,
all right, what else you got?
Next one is also from one that you picked out, Josh, and this is from Andrew Looney, and he asks, "Hey Double J's, I had a question in regards to Cowboy and what Josh was talking about with declining in sparring. Could it be possible that when sparring, Cowboy is usually going harder than his sparring partner? His partners are going at one level and he's going at a level higher, more intense. I don't mean to say his partners are taking it easy on him, just wondering if this could be something that would skew how Cowboy feels he does in training versus what he's actually capable of in the octagon."
John, I feel like we should take this question to our guest, who I think is about to come on right now as well. And would you like to introduce him?
Yeah, I would love to introduce him because I was lucky enough that I did his professional debut back at the Tachi Palace. I hated this guy because he was so goddamn good looking and stuff, but man, just turned into just
talking about
an
me?
incredible fighter. No, I'm not talking about you. That's the best part. But just turned into an incredible fighter and announced his retirement today. Mr. Alan Jouban, just a great fighter and a great person, and very happy to have him on the Weighing In podcast so we can talk about his career. So we are lucky enough to be in the presence of the man, Alan Jouban. You just retired. You had an incredible career, and you are sticking with the sport because you're doing an unbelievable job on the desk for the UFC, talking about fights, breaking fighters down. Welcome to the Weighing In podcast with me and Josh.
Thank you, brother. Glad to be here, man. It's been a weird day, man. I say weird, but not a bad day at all. But announcing the retirement last night and then kind of sleeping on it, you know, because I didn't want to get my head going with too much crazy stuff before I went to bed. But then I woke up this morning it was like I had fought. There was so many messages and so many kind words and people reaching out that it's been a kind of a crazy day, but a good retirement day.
It's nice for it to, for you, because you took some time between the last fight and now to make the decision. What was the deciding factor? I mean, I had some of my own deciding factors. For me, it was a long layoff, you know, almost, I would say it was almost a year and a half before I finally announced my retirement. But it was just like that feeling of, it finally is here, you know, and I know time has passed, and it's just, I need to make the decision. And what was your deciding factor?
It was a little bit like that, man. It was, I went into my last fight. I fought last year in late November, And at that point, before that fight, just a little backstory into it. Before that fight, you know, I had my 10th surgery or whatever. I did my ACL again. And at 38 or 37 when it happened, 38, 37 when it happened, to have another ACL surgery at that age, coming off of, you know, I've had neck surgeries, I knew that my time was running short. And so when I finally got healthy after all these surgeries again at that age, I told my coaches, I had a meeting and I said, look, this could be the last one. And so I want to treat this. I don't want to skip anything. I want to do everything the right way. And I need you guys to work with me. I'm not 25-year-old Alan anymore. I'm 38, 39-year-old Alan. And so I need you to, if you see me, I'm breaking down, my back is locking up. Like, I can't do those sprawl days. I can't do these 2.5-hour sessions. We just work with me. I want you to push me into deep waters, but not break me down. I got to get to this fight healthy. So it was probably the best camp of my entire life, to be honest. I'd never worked so hard and so diligently, and my coaches were so on top of my game. And so I had this amazing camp, and I got the win. And I was busted up, you know, had to make another hospital visit after the fight. And after that fight, I knew, I go, that was so much. Like, I couldn't even imagine going through that camp again, much less the fight. And so months after that, I kept thinking, if I fight again, I at the most have one more. I have one more in me. That would be it. And I let time go. Like you said, you let some time go by. And I kept telling people, my manager in the UFC, I said, give me some time. I might have one more like fight in me against like a legend, like a Carlos Condon or a Cowboy or something like that. I'm not going to go fight some young guy, but let me figure it out. And the more that I gave myself time, the more I came to the decision that I'm done. It's just my body, the injuries, things acting up again, my neck. I kept having to get shots on my neck to epidural shots on my neck to get the inflammation down. And I go, if I can't keep up in regular day-to-day stuff, I can't go through a grinding camp again. And lastly, it was just, you know, working the desk, as you guys said. When you see these older fighters on a weekly basis, you go out there and I'm a fan of all these guys, and they're not having a good night. And I'm sitting there in my desk, not fighting. And I'm thinking like, man, I don't want to go out there, and I don't want to, and I don't say this in a negative way towards them, but I don't want to go out there and do this to myself that they're doing. They're still fighting. And I feel like I can go off on a win, which is rare. It's so rare, and on my own terms. And I've been leaning towards retiring, but to wrap it up, it was the deciding factor was seeing all these guys in UFC that I love to watch, slowly their career coming to an end, and me realizing I wanted to make the decision on my own.
Well, the hardest part, I think, for a lot of fighters is, you know, your fight before that, I don't want to bring up bad news, but you fought and you lost to Dwight Grant. But then the fight after that, you win. But to go out on a loss, it's hard for people to say, no, I want to go out on a win. But then when they win, no, I want to go one more because I can do it still. Like, how hard of a decision is that, though, to make? Because on your loss with Dwight, were you thinking, okay, maybe that's it? Or did that?
So
no,
you're absolutely right. You're spot on, because that Dwight Grant fight, aside from, I thought I got robbed. That
was a close fight.
Right. That kind of fueled me. I thought I was like, the decision went the wrong way, but you're right. I couldn't leave on that. I couldn't let that be the last. And like, it was a boring fight, and I'm not known for boring fights. And so to go out on a loss with a boring fight, that irked me the most. And so I knew 100% I have to have his chance at redemption. I would never have stopped my career. I mean, it's actually, I'm thinking about it now. It's a great point, because coming off of a win is easier. It's easier to say, all right, I can go out on a victory, but you just have to push the money away, which is the tough thing, because the more you win, as you guys know, the more you win, the more your pay scale goes up and the more your value is. And you go, I've worked my entire life, my entire career to get to this peaking pay scale. Why would I walk away now when now I'm worth more money than I ever was 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Why would I walk away now when now I'm getting paid the money that I wanted to do? But it was easier for me to say, I got a victory, and I reversed the negatives that was surrounding me. And it was easier for me to pass up the money, knowing that I could sleep better at night with a victory.
Jon and Alan, you know how hard it is to say that I walked away from hundreds of thousands of dollars still left on my contract to this day. And if I went back, I'd be making that amount of money. And so what you're talking about is you worked so hard to get there. That's the hardest part. Like for me, it was the hardest part was walking away from the money. Whether it was a loss or a win, I could care less, because in the end of it, people remember they remember you for certain fights, like Muhammad Ali. We don't remember the end of his career. We remember all the great fights. We were just talking about BJ Penn before we had you on, and it really just came out. We were talking about all the great fights BJ Penn had. I don't remember the end of his career, and it's so that's the hardest part is how much money you leave on the table. Those are hard things to process in people's minds, their everyday life. Like, hey, if I fight out all the rest of these fights, I could pay the rest of my house off, or I could buy another house and have an income through that. And that's the most difficult part.
It is. Trust me, I've struggled with it because the UFC, they called me a few weeks ago when I was already in this back and forth process, and they threw out a name for a last minute fight. And I told them, I said, it's so bad timing. I'm already thinking about retirement, but I'm moving as well. I'm moving in about a month. And so when you're in the middle of moving, it's just very stressful. I go, I can't do this right now. But that little bit of, but damn, I can go get paid right now. And this will help. This is going to help that new house, right? It's going to help with a down payment. It's going to help with these bills. It's going to help get a new car. It was there. It was definitely in the back of my mind. And I went and I did a 2-day camp to see how my body felt. And I felt horrible. I just felt like, man, that young guy, I used to push through adversity. But when you're older, it's not that you can't push through it. It's just that there's more adversity. Your body is not responding as quickly. So your mind is working harder to push it to respond. But you're burnt out in the head because you've been burned so many times. You know how dangerous it is. And so many things. I've been trying to wrap my head around like what it is when a fighter is losing it. And I can't pinpoint one certain thing. It's not a specific one physical attribute. It's not specifically just the mind or the fear to commit, like we saw Tyron Woodley do for so long, or kind of like Cowboy last weekend. It's I feel like it's a combination of everything just not working. It's an engine. It has to work all together. And when different parts are being jeopardized, I don't have an answer to it. I don't have an answer to it, but I saw that happening to me, where I wasn't the quickest guy that I was. I saw my physical attributes starting to fade a little bit, and me sometimes being a little gun shy just because I'm smarter now as a fighter.
One of the things that I did your very first fight against Kyle, 15 seconds, got a knockout. Your next fight was against Chidi Njokuani, and it was a tough fight. But when you're looking at, I look at your last fight against Jared Gooden, who came out of another organization. You get the fight, and there was certain times in that fight where he started to take over, and then you would just you could see it in just your body mechanics and everything. You knew that you were getting hit, but it was like, I've got to stay here and do my work. Were you seeing that there was a difference in you as that fighter where I've got to take more risk and I've got to take more damage to get things done now than I did in the past? Yeah,
well, I mean, speaking on that fight, that's the first time I brought my boxing coach, and the thing that I always did, John, was like I would get into these Russian roulette, I'll say you hurt me, and then I try to hurt you back, and one of us gets knocked out, and that's what made fun fights, and that's why I was an exciting fighter, but I lost a number of times because of that. It hurt me, and so there were moments in that fight where I got hurt, and I bit down on my mouthpiece, and there were moments in that fight when I heard my boxing coach go, defensively sound, telling me to get the hell out of there, because he knew that whatever stage of my career Alan Jouban was about to start, where I just go, my back's against the wall, fight or die. And so I would get out of there and recircle. And, it's those reminders that coaches, good coaches, they'll, those little subtleties, just like, don't get in a firefight, circle out, reset. And so I was battling that, what you're talking about, throughout the entirety of that fight, man. When a guy like Jared, my last opponent, could take shots and continue coming forward, and I couldn't get him out of there. And then he would eventually get me. And I would have to think, do I sink or do I swim or what do I do right now? And so I felt like I was walking a high wire that entire fight, juggling that.
We had a fan question, not specifically for you, it was mainly for John and I, but it touches exactly on this situation. But it had to do with Cowboy Cerrone, who you brought up earlier. And Podcast David here is going to read it off to you and just kind of make of it what you can. And I would like to hear your opinion, and John and I will touch on it as well. But I mainly wanted to talk to you about it because it has something to do with what you had just said. Like, did you feel different in the gym? Was there a point in the gym or, you know, outside of training, did you start feeling like it is getting close to time? And so Dave's going to read this fan question.
So Andrea Looney asks, could it be possible that when sparring, Cowboy is usually going harder than his sparring partner? His partners are going at one level and he's going at another level, a higher level, more intense. I don't mean to say his partners are taking it easy on him, just wondering if it could be something that would skew how Cowboy feels in training versus what he's actually capable of in the octagon.
That's interesting. Man, I wish, first of all, that I got to spar Cowboy. I never did, man. I never made it over to the BMF ranch. So that's one
Not so much specifically for Cowboy, but I'm talking in general for like us older fighters. And just to give you to preface this, is that I told myself there was moments in my gym when I was sparring with guys like whether it was Khabib, whether it was Islam Makhachev, whether it was other top guys, and realizing that I was a step slower, that I wasn't able to do the things that I could do. And I just started seeing that guys that I used to have my way with that were younger, but now have gotten better, and me getting older, that the kind of the roles were changing. And I've seen it throughout my career with other fighters. Was there moments like that for you? Not so much to talk on the Cowboy thing. You know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot like that. I'd like to hear, was there moments like that for you where you just said like, you know what? I am not like as fast, or I am getting hit when I'm not supposed to. And was that kind of the deciding factor for you? And how long ago was that?
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I'm 39 now. I think around like 37, 38 is when I felt some of the physical attributes starting to fade. And oddly enough, I felt like I was in my prime in 36, which just shows the evolution of MMA, because you look at other sports, and you guys probably know all this stuff, but you know, pro football players, the average NFL career is 3 years. 3 years. So they're retiring 24 or something like that. 24. They're not in their prime. And you look at basketball players, when they start losing their hops, you know, they can't even dunk a goal anymore after a certain amount of years. But us MMA fighters, we get better over time in those 30s. We get really good. It takes a while because we're mastering our craft, and we're getting to, like Pat Miletich used to always say, our man body in our 30s and all that stuff. But I started the sport late. And so around 35, 36, I felt like I was really starting to peak, even though that used to be a retirement age 20 years ago in MMA. But it's shortly after that is when I felt the things you're talking about, where I used to bloody people's nose up in the gym. And now my nose is getting bloodied up by these young guys. And I used to be a quick guy. And that's another thing that I always thought about this. I was an athletic guy. And I go, being athletic is a blessing and a curse, because you use your athletics, right? You use your speed, and you use these things that keep you on your balance. But when you get older, those things are one of the first things to go, your speed and all those things, those attributes that you have. And I go, man, I'm really going to have to step up my technical game somewhere midway through my career, because when those elements of being the faster guy in every fight go away, what am I going to do? And so that was something that I battled throughout my career, trying to always improve the technical aspect. But I felt that, to answer your question, about 2 years ago, I started feeling that decline. And I felt that even though I won my last fight against Jared Gooden, I was doing everything possible to stay sharp. I felt like if I let off the gas 1%, I was going to get knocked out. I felt like it was so hard to look that good, because I had people call me. Sean Shelby called me today. He's like, man, you still look competitive. And I wanted to explain to him, but it wasn't worth it. Like, not in a mean way. Like, I just wanted to tell him, like, that was the best me. That was the best me. That was the best 39-year-old Alan you will ever get. If I ever have an injury or COVID or something and I have to go into a fight, you're not going to get that. That was the best I could possibly look. And knowing that was the roof, the ceiling for me, it made me go, I won't get any better than that last fight. I'm only going to get worse. And that last fight was hard as hell to look that good, or to win the fight is what I mean. And so that kind of pushed me away.
I think one of the things that when especially with that question, the one thing about sparring is sparring, and a fight is at a different speed. And you can have really good sparring sessions, but when you get into fight speed, there's nothing you can do if you're sparring and you are sparring, at a speed that's kind of up for you, but not quite at your top. But you step into that cage and the speed is just magnified double. I think that's what's happening with COWBOY is, the speed is the difference. And it's just these little tiny percentages, sometimes not even that full percentage, but that's the difference in you getting hit by a shot that you used to slip by, or you being able to land a counter. Now you're not landing it. And so then you're getting put in a bad situation. It's just part of age, and age sucks. Father Time is undefeated. And that's what you're talking about with this fight, your last fight against Gooden.
Yeah. I mean, the sparring has definitely changed for me too, though. I definitely veer away from the harder sparring. But I try to mix it up. I mean, I think of it a little bit like jiu-jitsu. Like you go with the black belts, you go with the blue belts, you go with the grapplers to get that mix. And I try to do the same in sparring, but I'm definitely out of the banging and sparring days. Those days are over. I remember when I first got to Black House, they if you would get knocked out, they would give you your $20. Like people would pay $20 to come spar if they weren't from there, and they give you your money back. If you get knocked out, you get your money back. It was like a joke because people were getting knocked out. I couldn't even imagine going to a gym where people are knocking each other out anymore. To me, I'm so far beyond that. I'm trying to work with somebody who's technically sound, but to your point, John, that has that UFC or Bellator or that high level experience where they know how can we fight competitive, real speed without getting injured. And that's what I'm always looking for, that perfect sparring partner that makes a realistic type fight, realistic type movements, realistic type decisions. They're in training and we're staying safe and calm the entire time. And, having a bunch of those guys in the gym is not always easy.
It's never easy. It's never, no, because
knuckleheads.
Yeah, what it comes in too is like it doesn't matter if you guys are friends. One person gets hit clean, the other person elevates their level, and it just slowly trickles up. It's a trickle up effect of it. Just elevation just starts going, and next thing you know, you guys are duking it out toe to toe, and it's like, man, how did this get this way? So it happens all the time. But overall, though, like now that you've just announced your retirement, and congratulations. I mean, it's a happy place. I got to tell you, I've been living it for a year or two, and I love it. But you're kind of taking off in the path similar to what I've done now, as well as working in the commentary area, and you've had a lot of success. You're amazing to listen to, and I love your breakdowns on the fights as well. But in terms of with the UFC, is this something that you will continue to do now with them for years to come, hopefully? Or
yeah, I'm hoping so, man. I mean, if I didn't have it, I might be still trying to fight. I mean, if I'm being honest, like I said I was almost out the door with this decision, and then seeing the fights the last couple of weeks with COWBOY and Frankie Edgar and Orlovsky and Overeem, watching these guys that are like guys that I love, and I see how it's going, and I'm sitting there at the desk talking about it after, and I'm like explaining what they maybe should or shouldn't do, and I don't really have the right to speak about it, but I have to, and I'm battling that same demon right now. What do I want to do? It really pushed me to want to do it. But knowing that I have a job in commentary, that I could still do what I love and talk, like I know fighting more than I know about anything in the world. So why would I start over? I want to stay and talk about what I know. And so, yeah, I text my manager yesterday, and then I text Zach Candido, the guy that, the producer at the UFC that books everybody. And I said, look, these are my thoughts, man. I really think it just came to me. I feel like it's time. It's just, I feel it. It never, more than ever, I feel that it's my time to retire. And I think I want to pull the trigger on this. What are your thoughts? And they all just said, you're good. And I said, this won't affect my commentary career or anything, correct? And they said, no, man, if anything, hopefully you get to focus more and hopefully more work. And for that, kind of having somewhat of a safety net of saying, look, I still get to work with the UFC or work in fighting and have another source of income doing what I love. Let's do it. And then I went outside and sat there for a half hour trying to decipher, how do I write this text, but that was the final push, was talking to the people around me, managers and people like that book me on these jobs and saying, go for it.
Yeah, they'd be foolish not to continue to have you. I mean, like, not to mention, I mean, like John, like I said, brag about that you're a lot better looking than me, and and now after seeing your jawline and that hairline, and everything, I gotta say, John, I think John's right. John's right. You know, it's funny because I do recall a lot of people would try to compare it. Like it ran into me and said, you know, you look like Alan, and Alan looks like you, and I was like, I started laughing, and I was like, oh, there's no way he's as good looking as me. And then I see you on I've seen you in a magazine or in a commercial or something. I was like, yeah, this dude is good looking. I'm like, I was jealous.
You posted a picture the other day, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, month ago on your story. And I thought it was me. I swear. And I was like, I thought this was me for a couple of seconds. I had to stare at it, man. It was a weird picture. Weird.
So much.
Yeah, a weird feeling, whatever.
It was a weird feeling.
I get it.
A weird feeling, huh? It was a weird feeling.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that I have never looked at a picture and thought, oh, I look like Alan or Josh. So
this is very true. Not with a name like Big John. I can't imagine that. Yeah.
You know, I have a question for you as far as your career. What's the one fight that you look back and you said, man, that's the one that I really felt I performed to my best. I looked good. I felt good, all those things. Because I'm telling you, I think it's one of the fights that I did of yours where you landed an elbow on a guy named Richard Walsh.
Oh, yeah.
It was the loudest damn shot. And he just, stunned, and then you opened up and I stopped the fight. But you couldn't miss in that fight.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. That was a big one for me because that was the Staples Center. And driving the Black House every day, I would drive by it. And, you do those self-affirmations. And I would drive by every morning, 9 a.m. and go, I'm going to fight in the Staples Center. I'm going to win by knockout. I'm going to get interviewed by Joe Rogan because I'd been interviewed by Joe Rogan at the time. Yeah, right. And I was like, Joe Rogan's going to interview me in the Staples Center and all this. And so be able to do that one, that was definitely a big fun one. But if I had to, from my coaches, I get this from my coaches' praise is the Mike Perry fight, because at that time when I fought Mike Perry, he was still like a bad man. He was undefeated, like 10-0, 10 knockout. Every fight he went through, he posterized somebody. And so going into that fight, we had some bad blood, and I knew if I lose, I'm gonna get knocked out and it's gonna be embarrassing. I gotta win. And that was one of the few fights that I really listened to my coaches. I didn't get into a shootout like I spoke about, and I didn't get that hurt. I almost every fight, I have my eyes closed or a broken bone, or like I just had this pattern where I have to have a surgery after every fight, and that's why I couldn't fight as much as I wish I could have throughout my career. But the Mike Perry fight, the most dangerous guy that I'd fought at that time, and I fought him and I did good, and I wasn't hurt at all, and I just remember like going out and I didn't have a black eye or wasn't on crutches, and my coaches were just like, can you do this every time? Can you hit and not get hit?
Don't you think I would like to?
You know what I mean? It's like they were so pleased. And because of that, I would say that one. They always refer to that one. Do what you did to Mike Perry, Alan. Do what you did to Mike Perry. Don't stand flat-footed. Hands up, angle out, those subtleties.
Yep.
They always remind me of that one. So yeah, that was one, man. That was a good one that kind of elevated how my thought process of, it doesn't have to be a war in every single fight.
Well, let me take the flip side of that, though. Is there one fight that throughout your career you wish you could get back?
Cool, man. Probably the that's a tricky one, Josh. I mean, the Dwight Grant one, I was not happy about. I just thought it was a boring fight, and I thought he evaded me for 15 minutes, and somehow he got the decision. But Albert Tumenov, man. Albert Tumenov was a Russian guy that was a killer. And he was the only guy that really kind of dropped me in my career, or not dropped, but like, I guess it was the first time I was like TKO'd from a headshot. Chitty hit me in the liver. That was my first ever loss. But yeah, Albert Tumenov hit like a truck, man. And I didn't remember that fight. I didn't remember what happened. That was the first time I've been, I guess, knocked out on my feet. I wasn't unconscious. I was still trying to fight, but they stopped it. But what I remember was being in the ambulance with my manager and looking up and going, I go, what happened? Did I win? And he goes, and he looked at me like shocked. And he goes, you don't know what happened? I go, no. And I got the worst feeling in my chest. It was like you got balls to the wall drunk and made a fool out of yourself like, I didn't know. I was like, did I shit my pants? Was I knocked out? Did they cart? You don't know, like when 45 minutes of your life is just gone or blank, you don't remember it. And somebody's about to tell you, it's the scariest thing in your life. And so I was so scared. He goes, you got knocked out. It wasn't that bad. I was like, I didn't look bad. They look funny. Like, were they showing highlights? He goes, no, it wasn't horrible. You were just kind of drunk walking. And that's one that, God, that stung to like have to go back and watch it. You know what I mean? And so I think about that all the time, man. Like, if you're a guy like a DC or a Michael Bisping who fought all these champions and they work every pay-per-view card and they have to watch themselves knocked out by Jon Jones. Bisping has to watch Kelvin Gastelum knock him out in China every time. You know what I mean? I'm like, God, these guys have a good poker face because it's tough. It's tough to see that over and over. Eventually, I would assume you get numb to it, but deep down inside, I feel like we all hide it. Like I've seen it. I'm good with it, but it still stings inside, and we're just covering it up.
What like when it comes down to like, look, we were talking about Cowboy Cerrone, and we're talking about like even with Diego Sanchez. When do you feel like, when is enough enough? It's like we all love watching Cowboy fight, and I'm all for him having his next fight at lightweight, giving him another run. And John and I were just talking about the fact that, I think Dana's doing him a solid. Give him one more opportunity. He's someone that's always said yes. He's always came out and tried to do his best. He's jeopardized even chances at winning titles, for short notice fights to make the company happy. Diego was the first Ultimate Fighter winner and so on, and how things ended there is just, we won't get into too much. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I really would just be like, hey, but it is a long time coming though, where the generation like yourself, even myself, and in the Cowboy generation and so on, when is enough enough? Like when do you visually start saying to yourself that is the money worth it? Because we've both left a ton of money on the table. And I know that these guys were making good money, but when is enough enough? You've got to see it in the mirror. And how do you go about telling yourself? And I feel like this conversation needs to be had with all of these guys. When you start hitting 36, 37, 38, and I brought up Tony Ferguson, he's a stud. There's no doubt about it. He's coming off 2 big losses, and you're not really ever the same after those kind of losses. You like John said, you leave a portion of your body, you leave a portion of yourself in the cage every time you fight. But when you have fights like that, you leave a little bit more of yourself. And what are we going to see moving forward? And when is enough enough?
Yeah, it's I feel like such a tough question, right? For each individual, and you have to look at the history with the organization. Like you said, Dana White and the entire organization want to do Cowboy a solid. And they want him to get that win. What I'm happy about is that I feel like there is an answer to this. There is a light at the end of the tunnel for Cowboy, knowing I got to retire. A couple fights ago, he was still saying, I want to fight 5 more years and all this stuff. And it was Cowboy still being a gunslinger. And it was like, man, we love you, Cowboy, but 5 more years. And like the people that you're fighting are very dangerous. They're not entry-level UFC fighters. After these losses, he's 5 losses and 1 draw in his 6 fights, something like that. It's tough. It's probably the most red-sided streak we've seen anybody continue to still be in the UFC, but I like the fact that he knows I just have to win so I can sleep at night. That's kind of how I was. I was like, I can't sleep with this loss. And I feel like Cowboy is now saying, I will retire. He didn't say it. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I feel like him saying, I need 1 more fight. I need to go to 55, improve myself. I feel like that's him telling us, I get this win. I'm going to get on my horse and ride off into the sunset. Dana, don't worry about it, but I need this win. I can't live with my legacy being this way. And so I appreciate that he knows that now. He's in my position. He's 38. And that's what I was thinking a year ago. I got to get this loss off of my record. I want people to remember me this way. The money's tough because Cowboy's a guy that makes good money, has good sponsorships, and he fights 5 times a year, or used to. So to go from making X amount to not making it is tough, but Cowboy's done well for himself. The people like Diego Sanchez, which is, he's not even in the UFC anymore, but he's a guy that you saw drastic declines in his style and just the way he moved. Like you watch some vintage Diego when he was throwing switch knees and flying knees. Like Diego, he's not that athletic of a guy, and he's the guy that he needed some good advice earlier than Cowboy, earlier than me, earlier than all of us. And instead he got that other guy the worst advice. So, but yeah, he needed it before all of us because his digression, if that's a word, was faster and more rapid than most of us other fighters.
Do you believe that the promotion itself has some responsibility in saying enough's enough?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was alluding to, like, it depends who it is, because I think if Cowboy, I mean, I keep going to Cowboy because he's one of the most beloved fighters, and I mean, you could, if I'm wrong, but like in UFC history, he's one of the most beloved.
Absolutely.
And so
he's walked in there as many times. Him and Jim Miller, they both have walked in that cage more than anybody else.
More than anybody.
That's pretty,
and then all
pretty
the
impressive.
records,
and then you think about all the WEC fights he had on top of that.
All that, and the wins. I mean, he's got all those records, but I feel like the UFC is treading lightly because he's so beloved, and he's done so much. I don't know. I mean, hypothetically speaking, if he lost this next fight at 55, I think they would say, that's it. We're sorry. We love you. They would do it in a way. We love you, Cowboy, but we can't let you take damage anymore. If he won, I feel like they would still say it. Like, this has got to be it. I don't think that, but I feel like if he won, that he would probably step away. I think he knows better now. I feel it.
You talked about that red that he's got, all those reds. The guy that I can think about that matches it is BJ Penn. BJ.
Oh,
Penn.
BJ. Yeah. I was trying to think, because I remember Dan Hardy fights GSP and then loses 4 in a row. And then I think he came back and won a couple.
But he won at the end.
Yeah, he won at the end, right?
His last fight was against
was it Bang? Was it Dwayne?
I want to say it
Ludwig?
was Samira Dalla. He got a win.
Oh, wow. Look at that memory. I don't even.
Exactly. Thank you. You know what I deal with every
This is what Josh has to deal with.
Oh, does John no? John doesn't forget shit.
Yeah.
Oh no.
UFC 21, Bellator.
Oh, okay.
It's like 3.
not me.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
I forget everybody's name. I'm doing good so far. I forget everything.
Oh man.
Yeah, but BJ's another one. You're right. BJ goes from a very beloved fighter, a former champion, all these things, to a guy that they just like step away. And I don't even know what his current situation is. I couldn't imagine that they would ever let him fight again. Yeah, that would be sad to see. I wouldn't want to see it.
Well, I guess now that we've talked about your career, we've talked about your retirement, but the one thing that we need to address, because this is the most important part, how does your wife feel about it?
You know, it's funny. I was calling her on the way home from the gym. I just got done teaching class, and I told her, I said, I was talking about retirement because it's still sinking in. And I think I strained my calf teaching class. And I called, I go, babe, you're not going to believe this. Like, I retired, and then I think I just strained my calf. I showed a kick and I didn't warm up, and pulled my damn calf. Like, I'm limping. And I was like, but you know what? I used to stress out because I'm like, damn it, now I got to take 2 sessions off, and whoever's fighting me is getting better than me. And the weight was always on you. And I go, but you know what? What I thought about right away, I was telling her this. I said, I just want to stay healthy. I'm not going to train for the next couple of days because I just want to stay healthy enough so that when we move, I can move everything and fix all the things and hang the chandeliers and do all the work around the house. I don't want to be on crutches or something. And she goes, oh, I love you retired. You're so much like not stressed out and stuff. And I realized that. I'm like, yeah, as fighters, we have this pressure to always be at the top of our game and always get 1% better every day. And it's such a load to bear every day, especially if an injury comes or something happens. And so, yeah, man, it's, I'm so new into being retired, but I could see my wife is happy, and little things like this, little setbacks that might've stressed me out before won't be as bad anymore.
One thing I wanted to bring up to you is John and I were in a commission meeting today, and I wanted to get your take on it and get a feel for what your thoughts were. Is California is talking about implementing a retirement fund for MMA athletes. They already have one for boxers. Obviously, you and I would not be privy to it because we are we are older now.
But I did use you. I used you as an example for it.
You know, yes, John did use it today during the commission meeting, and so we, you know, I gave my feed into it exactly on my thoughts of it, but. Basically, I think this is all just a rough draft, is what they're trying to do is if you fought a certain amount, this is only for California, not for the nation. Obviously, if California gets to start it, maybe some of the other states will jump on board and start doing it as well for their state. Each state it will be individually run for the fund. But it really comes down to if you fight a certain amount of rounds in their state, then if you hit a certain marker, then you'll be, what is the word I'm looking for, John? Vested into that fund. So when you are done fighting your amount of rounds in that whatever their requirement is, let's just say it's 30 rounds, you know, in that state, then you can go ahead and collect like a pension at the end, you know, and they just write you one check and one lump sum of saying, hey, so like you retired. Now you're saying like within say a couple years, say, hey, I want to collect my retirement fund, and they pay you depending on, they're still trying to work out the kinks on when it will be, what age, you know, that kind of stuff. Is that once you're done, if you wanted to get into being a plumber, if you wanted to get into doing something else, because you're 38, 39, you know, and you still have you have another life to live after fighting. And I've said this multiple times, fighters, you fight for 40, but what happens if you live till you're 80? What are you going to do financially for money until you're 80? And so that being said, you know, they give you the money, you know, a couple of years after, or 5 to 10 years, or, you know, 15 years after, so you can go ahead and take a course to be a plumber, an electrician, or to become a police officer, whatever it is that you want to do. What's your take on something like that in terms of a retirement fund, or, you know, even to help pay for insurance for medical issues later on? Because fighters, you know, they're independent contractors. And so how do they pay for their insurance if they don't have a steady job that does that for them after they're done?
Man, first of all, I was trying not to like smile ear to ear while you're saying that, just because I'm like, that's so new to me. You know, like I couldn't even imagine that a pension, a retirement fund. Fighting is such a short-lived career. And you guys know that like the mark to make it into that 1% as a fighter, it's so small, man. I mean, to the guys that go pro, the guys that go on a next level, the guys that make it to the UFC, Bellator, the big show, the guys that even after they make it to the big show, they're not working a part-time job or whatever. Like so many people are still, you know, doing stuff. And to have that, it would be amazing. I couldn't, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, to be honest, because I've always thought about like the broadcasting thing, what you're doing, Josh, and what I'm getting into now, because I was like, I need that backup, because when I come out of fighting, I want to still be working. I want to still be busy. I want to still be involved in a sport. Majority, 99.9% of fighters don't have that. And a lot of these fighters, unless you're making it to the pay-per-view or the championship type money, they're going back and having to find a new job or be a trainer. And it's sad, man. The thing that I always hated the most is like you go to Thailand and you'll go to some hole in the wall gym and some guy will hold pads for you. And they go, that guy's a Lumpini champion, man. He's a 4-time Lumpini champion or this or that. But he's still got to hold pads and he sleeps in the back of the gym in a bunk bed and his kids are there. And he's still trying to support himself. And there's so many fighters that didn't make it to the level of success financially as well with the other accolades of winning fights and belts that need that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be amazing. I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine California doing that.
Well, the California Commission was like, hey, look, it's not life-altering money, but then they also were talking about, like, they have written just recently checks for fighters that have fought multiple times, you know, over, say, 30 rounds in California, which...
In boxing?
In boxing. Yeah, this was for boxing, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so in that case, it was you know 30 rounds of boxing, but they were talking about some of the checks that they've had to write have been all, you know, over $150,000 to $160,000. And that being said, that's not. They said like it's not enough to change lives. I'm sorry, but $160,000 is enough to at least get me on track to whatever it is I'm trying to do, pay my rent, you know, pay my insurance and those type of things. So to think that is a possibility for the state of California to even start is just absolutely amazing. And I was telling John and with all the commissioners there today that I was just, and even some promoters were there as well. I don't want to say flabbergasted, but I was absolutely just stunned the fact that we were having this conversation, because we are now in that age right now where we're in the mark of, we've been in this sport for what now, John, 28 years? Come on, give me the memory that you just 28 years. Now we're seeing the effects of the fighters from the beginning of the era, where they're at mentally, how are they doing physically, do they need medical help in terms of, damages? Let's just say, Spencer Fisher being one of them. And then what's Tim Sylvia with the forearm, where he broke his forearm against Frank Mir. Problems with the plate, can't afford to get it taken out. There's those type of things that I think is, with that amount of money, even if it's only say 35, 40 grand, it's enough to get them started maybe in something that they had wanted to do, or help pay their insurance so they can get these things resolved at a later date, say 5 to 6 years down the line. I've only been retired, I think, for, when did I retire podcast, Dave?
February 2017.
See, February 2017. Great memory.
Wow. Gotta ask somebody else.
But
that's always good.
But the thing is, I didn't start noticing any injuries till about this year. I started waking up, like my knees was hurting me a little bit, ankles, wrists are for sure hurting me, but I never had these I had aches and pains. We all do, that. But I never had the injuries where, like, now I woke up a couple weeks ago and my knee's been bugging me ever since, and I can't get it to go away. It's like I roll it, stretch it, do all the things, and all the physical therapy stuff I was taught over the years, and it hasn't even been getting better. So these are just injuries that you didn't realize you had throughout training because you had built up all the muscles around it. But now, years later, if I was able to have the insurance, which I have insurance, but some of these fighters don't, they can go ahead and get these things treated 5 to 10 or 8, 20 years later, and I feel like that's such a big deal for a lot of these fighters that may not have, to speak frankly, a pot to piss in 10, 15 years.
And what's crazy is that, like, for me, like, I don't know anything about it, right? Because a lot of fighters, we don't expect it almost, because we don't know about it. We're not educated on it. I'm not educated on it. And so we just know, like, you got to go in and you get an opportunity and you fight your balls off and you try to win and make money and do what you can, because I couldn't even imagine these type of things that a lot of, other basketball, unions and all this other stuff that you're talking about, that they do have, and that hopefully is coming one day. But for me, you guys are more educated on it. For me, it's just like, how amazing would that be for everyone that needs it so bad?
Let me ask you this, because the reason I used you as an example during their meeting was, you came from Louisiana, but you started your fighting career in California. And correct, I don't know if you realize it, but when they talk about rounds, if you have a 3-round fight, your fight against Kyle Griffin, it was 15 seconds, but it was a scheduled 3-round fight. So that's 3 rounds that goes on to your record as he's completed 3 rounds in the state of California.
Thank God on that one.
Well, your career is exactly 30 rounds in the state of California.
Wow.
So you would have been just vested. Do you think that it needs to be at that level, or should it be a little bit less or a little bit more?
That's interesting. Well, I'd have to dig into, now you got me thinking, like, how many times did it fight in California, right? Because some guys have a much longer regional career or local career, whereas I fought more fights in the UFC, I think, than I did not in the UFC. So a lot of them probably weren't in California. So with that said, if I still was able to fight, I probably had an average number of fight career. I have like 25 fights or something, professionals. That's probably, I guess, an average number. And so if I have an average number of fights and more than half of those were not in California, and I still made enough rounds, as you're saying, to be vested in, then I think that's a pretty good starting point, at least, to start from.
Okay.
Good to know I get in. I appreciate you doing the math on that one. Yeah, it works out good.
Because God knows I'm not good at math. So since we're twins, I know you're probably not good at math. So I mean, really, we let John do all the big thinking in this neighborhood. I mean, that was kind of my take on it, because I did, when we got in the conversation with the commissions today, I was talking to them basically about that. I was thinking just bigger promotions, whether it was Bellator, PFL, UFC, but it's not. It's for fighters that had fought in the WC back when it was like in Lemoore. If it was commissioned by the commission, you'd be vested. Those rounds would count towards you being vested into it for your 30 rounds or your however many fights or whatever it was. So that being said, like your King of the Cage, people that never really make it to the big shows, but they still are going to be included into that. So what they are proposing is, because what it is for boxing now, I think it's 88 cents a ticket is what it was. I think goes towards basically like towards the vested
fighters fund.
For the fighters fund. So that fighters fund, 88 cents a ticket for an MMA event will go towards that fighters fund. So if you fight in California,
it has a maximum.
You know, and if it goes to, if as long as it's commissioned by the state of California, like if you're on an Indian reservation, there's no commission, it wouldn't count. So
gotcha.
It just encourages fighters to make sure that they're fighting with the commission event. I mean, it's also safer that way as well as
on a sanctioned event. And then, so you're saying if this were to pass and go through, and starting whatever date that would be, moving forward, every time a commission sanctioned event in California would take place, 2,000 tickets were sold, 88 cents per ticket of that would go into this fund, and then they would start distributing that cash eventually, I guess, after people were retiring.
Yeah.
But people like me, or pre it being passed, would not be grandfathered in, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, you and Josh are gonna have to make it on your looks.
We have to make it on the looks and some commentary. Well, I mean, it's fine because I didn't expect this anyway. It's like somebody saying, you know, you're gonna win the lottery. But and I'm not saying that's the right mindset to have, but I just feel like as fighters, we're so just used to this. Like, this is an opportunity we have to fight. I mean, that's just a fighter's mindset, right? Just going and doing whatever they're told and getting it done. So to have something backing them finally, man, I feel like we're going to look back in 20 years and be like, you kids have no idea. I mean, fighting is going to be all over every television, and the sponsorships are going to be up, and they're going to have these unions and be like, yeah, you have no idea. We were walking 2 miles in the snow to get to school kind of stories because we were fighting for nothing back then. Yeah. These kids are going to be making millions of dollars, and hopefully, I really hope so, in the years to come.
They're already making millions. Who are we kidding, buddy? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, the lower
scale,
the lower scale guys, the guys that are starting at the 10 and 10s. Hopefully, that's a lot more than that.
John?
Well, my last thing is I want to tell you, throughout your career, you've been an outstanding competitor. Thank you for everything that you did in the sport. And I know you have done a great job with the desk. You're going to continue on and be fantastic. I love your breakdown of fights. So in your retirement, Alan, the best of luck. Have a great one and continue on with what you're doing. You're going to be a fantastic commentator.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it, brother.
Lastly, what I'm going to say is I follow you on Instagram. That's how we actually linked up today. I saw that's your retirement, and I wanted to wish you the very best. But what I do admire you the most about, whether it's your fight career, whether it's your commentary, is the way you are with your son and your wife. I think it's absolutely amazing. All the stuff that you post, all the positive energy you spread. To me, I feel like there's just not enough positivity going around right now in the world, especially on social media. And I thank you a lot for that. And actually, sometimes when I'm, going through my day, I'm thinking to myself, man, I wonder what he's doing. So I occasionally check it out, man. I honestly, it's great to be around people that are extremely positive, and I just want to wish you the very best throughout whatever it is you do, after fighting, and good luck.
Thank you, brother. And I guess I'll say, you guys aren't so bad either, man. You guys aren't so bad either.
Man,
thank you, fellas.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we got to catch up soon again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to come on anytime.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Alan.
All right, my pleasure, man. Y'all take care.
Well, we would like to thank Alan Jouban for coming on our show. He has been an outstanding fighter. He is going to be a fantastic addition, because someday he's going to be sitting at that table. He's not going to only be in the studio at the desk. He's also going to be giving commentary on those fights because he's that good with it. And you know what, Josh? I hate to tell you, man, he gives you a run in the look department, so you're in trouble with that part.
He's also younger. Calm down.
Oh, look at someone's younger than you. I love it.
Oh man, I'm usually the youngest in the Bellator production team. So
you're always the youngest. I hate you.
Actually, no, Jen's younger than me.
Well, that's true.
But I really can't compare her looks because she's way better looking than me. So.
According to me, she is.
Yes. So, look, it was fabulous. I'm glad that we got a chance to talk to him because it came right at the right time of us having these conversations. And I know we brought up a lot about the Diego and the Cowboy, but there's a lot of fighters that we got to talk about. He brought up Overeem and and Arlovsky and some other fighters as well. And so there's a lot of fighters that we could touch on as well. So, but look, it was a pleasure having him on. He's amazing, and I hate that it's so competitive. The fact that he is better looking than me. God. Also, before we go, ProWrestlingTees.com/weighing in. Use the promo code and still. You get another 20% off. Pick up our Memorial Day shirt.
That's a good-looking shirt.
It's a limited edition. It's bomb. Dave did a great job designing it. I want to thank him for that. And I don't like to give thanks too much to Podcast Dave because he lets it go to his head. I got to grease the door so he can get his ears through the door. And it's all bad. But ProWrestlingTees.com/weighing in. And he's going to put up a picture of this new Memorial Day shirt. And so pick that up with that promo code weighing in, 20% off. Also, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube, our SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, all those platforms, especially the audio platforms, because now a lot of you guys are going back to work. Listen to us in your cars. Hit the subscribe button on your audio platforms. We're on Spotify as well and iTunes, so hit that as well. Those are our biggest views right now, but we're trying to build them all up. So go there on the YouTube. Hit the little bell on the bottom right corner. That will also send the notifications out. We want to thank you guys for listening to our show, and I know John always has to have the last word. Go right ahead.
I always don't have to have the last word. I just get the last word. So for everyone out there, we will see ya